And a very good evening and a good afternoon, morning, wherever you are. And welcome to the special edition of the Championship Review. It is the final day. It was the final game of the season of yesterday. We'll talk about all the permutations between who's going to vie for the title race between Leeds and Burnley, who's going to get the final two spots in the promotion in the playoff race, and also we'll talk about the battle for the last two places of the relegation battle as well. Like I said, and we will discuss our own team of the season as well, which we did suggest from Reese from the weekly Steel Chair. Thank you very much, Reese, last week to discuss about to give our team of the year with the limits of only choosing only two players for the same club, that we're allowed to do. So let's get on with the show. And do you know what? It's good to say good evening to Michael. Michael, how you doing?
I'm not doing too badly. Hopefully, I'll be doing even better. Hopefully, I'll be doing really well in 3 weeks, but that's a different conversation. But I imagine that both football and non-football wise, you're doing very well.
Yeah, not too bad, actually, not too bad indeed. Non-football and football wise, and yeah, the last 24 hours has been quite crazy as hell. I'm probably like that. Some of the leagues, I didn't have any drink, but a lot of these players came out a bit drunk after 24 hours. They were still stuck, so after because I think all the Leeds fans were still there on Thursday, Friday night down in Plymouth. It was a packed place, Plymouth. So
To be fair, I mean Plymouth doesn't look too bad for a weekend away. So
yeah.
I can imagine that. To be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of your fans are there right now because it's also a bank holiday weekend, isn't it?
That's true. That is true. Yeah, it's the bank holiday weekend, so yeah. Well, you guys down in the south get bank of holiday. We don't up here, so
Well, yeah, true. Well, I work in retail, so I work bank holidays anyway. So to me, there's really next to no difference. It's just my shift's a couple of hours earlier. But yeah, I'm sort of used to that. But to be fair, I mean, I must admit, and I said to you before we started recording, if you've seen those limbs in that Leeds away end was ridiculous. And I can imagine that the title wasn't. I can imagine that if you didn't win it, you wouldn't have been absolutely devastated because the main job was already done. But yeah, to win it in the last minute, and especially for and first and foremost, fair play to you and Burnley, 100 points. There was me at the start of the season saying, "Oh well, I don't think the quality will be as good this year. The points tally won't be what high as what it was last year." Well, you're right. It wasn't as high as last year. It was even higher. So
yeah.
it shows what I know, doesn't it? But yeah, the right two teams finished in the top two for me, like easily the two best teams in the division.
Absolutely as well. Everyone, you're welcome to message in as well. Please message in and give us your questions and your responses while we have a good chat as well. I know we'll get all the 12 games, but we're all going to do probably eight of the main important games, which is fair because we felt like that was.
George just skimmed through the four that don't have as much riding on them, and
Yeah,
we'll
let's skim for the first four actually, and we'll start off with probably kind of City's, last game in the Championship, losing 4-2 at Norwich, and Norwich need to finish bit on a bit of a high point. Do you think Jack Wilshere will get the job permanently this summer?
Possibly. I think with the links he's got with Ben Napper, because they were both at Arsenal at one point, weren't they? So behind the scenes. So yeah, I think it's an interesting one because I think if you're looking at the Johannes Hoff Torp sacking, obviously there was a trying the right way to word this. It caused a bit of division among Norwich fans from what I can see. There was some that felt it was the wrong call and that he should have been given more time. But I could also really see I could see Jack Wilshere getting it, to be totally honest. And I think, but obviously for this, I mean, apparently by the looks of it, it had sort of got a little bit not toxic, but in terms of the effort levels, it hadn't been quite as good in the last few weeks of Johannes. So I think, but I can see Wilshere getting it. I mean, and look, obviously he's gone away and drawn away at Borough, which in isolation is a pretty decent result. Obviously, you've beaten relegated Cardiff, but you can only beat what's in front of you. And to be fair, actually, what was it? Was it Darwin Nunes scored the second goal um,
Yeah,
from the free kick? That was a really well taken free kick. Obviously, was it McGuinness? I think who got sent off for
yeah. Chambers got sent off.
Chambers. Sorry, why did I think McGuinness for some reason? I don't know. Anyway, no. Obviously, Callum Chambers getting sent off did massively help things, but you obviously got Bora Signs getting another goal to his tally. I mean, it's weird because he hasn't been scoring as anywhere near as much over the last few months, and
No,
yet he's probably among the third or fourth highest goal scorer in the league. Which
he's
individually, he
second. Yeah,
so is it Peru who's top now, who's
yeah.
finished top scorer? Fairs. Has Peru hit 20 goals?
No, it was 19.
Was there one goal difference then?
It was one goal different. It was actually two goal difference actually between the top three.
Wow. That's let me guess, Josh Sargent third.
I think it was just no, it was not. It was Brownhill. It was actually Brownhill
He
and
scored yesterday, didn't he?
yeah,
Um,
Brownhill scored. So both. It was only goal difference, So yeah,
yeah. To be honest, I think that. But if you're looking at this particular game to just sort of go over it, I think Cardiff. We kind of talked about Cardiff a lot last week, and we know that really, I think that Nathan had said something like they had what was it, the eighth highest wage bill or something?
yeah,
The championship, or was something around those lines, and got relegated, which is massively concerning for them. And we know how that tit, to be honest, Vincent Tan, who probably is only out idioted by Defon Chansiri, but it's a very, very close call for that. Particular honour or dishonour. But obviously, from Norwich's point of view, you have to be able to go out and win against this sort of team, and at least end a season, end what I would imagine has probably been a sort of a transitional but sort of a disappointing season in a lot of ways on at least a high. And obviously it's a bit, and for both teams, but for different reasons, it's a big summer for Norwich. Obviously, there's the good chance that's Bora signs his last game. There's a good chance there's a good chance that could be Josh. Sorry, don't know what happened there. It could be Josh Sargent's last game. So at the very least, if you win on a high, it gives the fans something to latch on to for a little bit. But it's still a massive summer for Ben Napper in terms of whether he appoints Jack Wilshere or whether he goes for someone else to take over the reins at Norwich in terms of a head coach. So it's going to be big. But as far as this game's concerned, yeah, you're Norwich, you get a win. Final day in the sunshine. It's for what was not on for what their seasons turned out to be. It wasn't a bad way to end it, I suppose. But yeah,
absolutely. Well, we've got some questions coming for both of us, Michael. Actually,
well
one
then.
from Doug.
Hello,
Good
Doug.
evening,
Hopefully you and
lads.
your family are all right. By the way,
Yep. Are you worried about? He's asking. Is Michael worried about the players giving Sunderland's wretched form?
I'm more worried about the fact we've got Coventry over two games because as Carl will know in the group chat, as everyone in the group chat knows, I've been saying for ages. I'd much rather play Bristol City, and that's no disrespect to Annie because Bristol City are obviously not a bad team at all. But I just think Coventry have got that physicality, they've got that pace, power that, and I'm not saying Bristol City don't have those things, but Coventry have them in more of an abundance. As far as the form goes, if you actually look at the last six games out of the teams that are in the playoffs, yes, we're obviously the worst of them. We've only got 1 point out of six, which is terrible. But if you look at, I think Sheffield United, um, I think they've won two of their last six or seven. I think Bristol City apparently have only got 5 points from their last six games, which I was quite surprised by. I thought it would be more than that. Obviously, the caveat for them is, to be fair, one of the games was against you lot, so it's you're going for the title. And then Coventry, I think, must have had something like. To be fair, they've had decent. I think they've won something like three of their last six. I might need to double check that, but so nobody's really striking me as on fantastic form. But for me, for the playoffs, it just depends how much our players want it. And I don't believe, and I don't, I believe we are trying. I do believe we do try, but it's a question of to what extent do we want it? How much do we want to essentially go for battle for these games? Because if we've been struggling in recent weeks, Coventry are a damn sight better than most of the teams that we've been facing recently, and will give us a big test. So let's hope we rise to the big occasion, but we'll see.
Absolutely, absolutely. Doug, thank you for another question. Just one from me. Carl, true about Fark instead. Good to see you yesterday. Yeah, it was good to see you yesterday too, man. It's been a while since we last physically saw each other. And I think it goes back to some point last year. Yeah, it was right about last year, last saw you physically. So, it was good to see you. But yeah. So in the news about 3 hours ago, just got to get the confirmation up that Daniel Farker is being backed by Pragmath Marath early today. He spoke to BBC Radio Leeds today. He said that Farke is his man, and he's confirmed that he's very excited to run it back and collaborate with him. Despite the reports that we're going to change the manager in the summer, he said, "I am under no illusions that's going to be easy. The past 2 seasons, the three promotees that came straight back down, we have something they don't have. We have Daniel Farke first of all. I've ended speculation. He's my man, and he's got 2 years left on his contract. So Mark previously said Farke has not been given the financial backing required to compete before, and that will not be the case this time. And that talking about his past at Norwich. Together, we want to build the best squad we can with every penny we're allowed to spend, be competitive in Premier League. The American said we're going to attack the transfer market, and it's something I'm really excited about. So that's all confirmed, and with that one, Michael, it's actually what was needed. The club, and especially those questions when this rumors came out last weekend after the promotion was done during the Easter weekend. it just the noise was building from certain outlets completely.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said to you before we did start recording, it provides the clarity on the situation for Farker, for those at the club, for the fan base as well, because you want to be able to go into the summer now with as much clarity as possible, so you know the position, you know where you stand, and the focus can be on bringing the players in and making sure that you're in a good state for the Premier League. Because we had the conversation off air about this, and I think it was the interesting bit is that although he's obviously done well, cack to be honest, in his last two seasons in the Prem. Although the second season at Norwich he got sacked, I think in November 2021. So the thing I always caveat that with though is that Leeds should have bigger resources than Norwich in the Premier League, and obviously Norwich obviously don't have small resources by any means, but like Leeds obviously should have a bigger ceiling. And also I think the first season it was an unexpected promotion from Norwich, but it was nevertheless an earned one. It was deserved. And then the second season, a big thing was they sold Emi Buendia upon getting promoted, which already wasn't a good wasn't a good sign. So I think I'll be interested to see what happens if he has a summer where he gets to keep his best players and gets to see what we end up happening. But so it's going to be interesting. It's an interesting summer for Leeds, and I think that, but obviously the level of play you can get now is going to be on a completely different level than what you would have been able to get in the Championship. So it's over to Farker and the sporting directors and the board to see what they're able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting summer going down for us at the road during the summer as well. And we should get an announcement of the first fixtures, the Premier League fixtures, which we should be confirmed. I think it's on the 18th of June, actually 16th, between the
Hmm,
16th and 18th of June. We should get
yeah,
the fixture announcements for the Premier League coming up. Got some more. You can say good mentions. Good morning, hello Billy. How you doing? You hope you're well. Very concerned. Big up from Anthony. Good. Even Anthony was at the game yesterday, round the pitch. Yeah, playoffs. And thank you to Doug. Please, yeah, if you are new to my podcast,
legend.
please hit that like button, hit the subscription button as well. And also, I will put in Michael's channel after we've done our live stream
Very
on
kind of
here.
you. Thanks.
It'll be good. And this is what I said to him yesterday, Doug. I think it's going to be Liverpool against Leeds to start the season
That's
because
going to be great for you too.
it happened. No, do you know it happened 5 years ago during COVID where we did get promoted under Bielsa, and we could have gotten the point against Liverpool, and we lost
Um,
all three.
I was going to say, didn't you? Was it away at Liverpool and you lost 4-3?
Yeah,
I'm sure it was. Yeah, I remember. I was sure I wasn't fabricating things when I was mentioning that score.
yeah, no, absolutely. It was probably one of the best opening games ever in Premier League history. Two champions going against each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really was. It really
Oh
was.
yeah, yeah. It could be the two. It'll be the two champions of the top two leagues going at each other. Yeah, I've just realised.
Yeah, and it's always a conundrum. But every time Liverpool wins a league, Leeds do as well. That's always been a thing historically.
Oh well, fair enough then. You're not going to complain, are you?
No, I'm not going to complain, and I am going to do a bit of road trips next year as well. So I will be probably want to go to Anfield as one of my onto my do list. Not Old
Hopefully, the
Trafford. I think
stadium of light as well.
yeah, I'm
In
not.
other
Yeah,
words,
I will do that as
as
well.
in, hopefully, we're winning the playoffs, but we'll wait
Yeah,
and see.
I'm not going to Old Trafford. I've been there before. I went there on a IT on a college trip as part of my course, and it was bonkers as hell. They were still talking about the IT stuff, but they were talking about all the historical Man United. I'm like,
Yeah.
please, God, yes, I would not touch that needle. So yeah, I'm not going to touch that one again. I wouldn't go to Old Trafford for a away game, but I'll go for the home game. The home. I'm going to try to go a couple of home games next season. So that is the list is going to be what I'm going to try to do, especially with the ballot system. I'm going to have to be very vigilant on the ballot. So yeah,
Hmm. Well, thanks, Carl. By the way, I've just seen your comment there. Hope Sunderland come up, want to come back to the stadium. Like, yeah, I need to meet. If we do end up coming up, then if we do end up winning the playoffs, then yeah, we'll have to try and arrange that, and I'll see if I can come and meet you for Sunderland versus Liverpool next season.
yeah, no, you should meet Doug. Doug. You will love Doug. Trust me, you
Yeah,
will
I
go.
mean to be fair, we might get each other in the FA Cup if we don't go up. So you never know.
True. I need to find from Christopher, even Chris, Leeds approach it, Leeds 10-point cushion to see Liverpool Prem, 10-point cushion. Yeah, coincidence. I need to find. Yeah,
What's the plan?
absolutely.
What's the quote from the A team? I love it when a plan comes together. Maybe
Yeah.
that was orchestrated all along.
Oh yeah, very much indeed. Right, let's go into the other games briefly. Swansea finish off with the Swan Song drawing 3-3 against Oxford United. Like I said, Oxford, you got to give them credit for them to stay up this season under Gary Wright. There was a lot of questions after this. Bookham got the sack, but it's just almost uppers for them. And also the final game of Joe Allen is now retired as well. So yeah, two achievements,
Yeah.
great, you know.
6 goal thriller for him to go out on, which was so but yeah, to be fair, actually a couple of the goals in this game were really good. Which one was it? I think it was at the first Swansea goal. I believe it was like a curler, I think, from pretty much like 25 yards from what I can
Yeah,
remember.
from Jim Song, yeah.
Yeah, that was it. Yes, I knew I wasn't making it up. Yeah, that was an absolutely stunning goal. To be fair, Oxford's first goal wasn't a bad finish either. But
No, Leeds
to be
yeah,
fair, I think you've got. I mean, look from Swansea's point of view, is it Alan Sheehan?
yeah,
Alan Sheen, yeah, he's obviously been confirmed on a permanent basis, so that's obviously again a bit of clarity. I'm always a bit wary of interim coaches being made permanent bosses because often than not, the permanent spell isn't anywhere near as good. But to be fair, he's probably Swansea have probably ended on one of the best formed teams in the division, and obviously he's managed to get them well away from trouble after what had happened earlier in the season. So I'm with Luke Williams. So I think that we're gonna yeah, I think it's an interesting time ahead of Swansea. We'll wait and see what ends up happening. And obviously, Nathan's not here, so I can probably say it. They obviously were probably pretty laughing at the fact that Cardiff have gone down. Poor Nathan. But from Oxford's point of view, you're right. I think Gary Rowett, I've said before, I think for me is would have been on my one of my short lists for what it matters. One of my short lists for manager of the season. I think he's done an absolutely incredible job for reasons I've said before, and I said it after Oxford beat Sunderland that the budget he's had. This would have been the weakest squad probably on paper that he's worked with, the lowest budget he's had to work with. There's been a lot gone again. There's been a lot that they've had to do, and it's a massive effort for them to have stayed up, and it's been thoroughly deserved as well. So I'm sure they will be absolutely looking forward to seeing the Kassam host Championship football yet again next season.
absolutely, absolutely. It'd be good for next season for Oxford to try to consolidate themselves as a championship in years to come. Let's go to Vicarage Road and Sheffield Wednesday. Fortunately, ended with a draw 1-1 at Watford. Josh Windass, scored to put the hours ahead of a bright start, and then Musa Soko's fight equalised, ended Watford's run of 4 consecutive defeats. So, and they stay. Sheffield Wednesday stay above Watford by point.
Yeah, well, they just scraped to a top half finish, didn't they? So, yeah, I mean, to be fair, it wasn't far off. I mean, with my prediction, I think I went for Sheffield Wednesday to finish 10th at the start of the season, so only 2 places off, so not doing too bad. And just very quickly, I actually called the top two in the exact right order, which I'm going to blow
You
smoke up
did.
my own. I'll blow
So did
smoke
Doug as well, but
up.
he actually got a third place team wrong, which we will talk about later on.
If it's the team that I think you're going to say, if it's a team that got drastically wrong, then yes, I went for the same team. If it's who I'm thinking of, but suffice to say, yeah, Sheffield Wednesday. Look, we know their bigger issues. Again, I mentioned before about Vincent Tan. Defon Chansiri must have thought, "You're doing a crap job. I'm going to make sure I do worse." So I'm going to wait. So I think it gives off the impression to me from the vibes I'm hearing from Chef Wed fans and from some of the quotes that have come out about Danny Roll that this looks like his time's up at Hillsborough. But yeah, I mean, we know. Like I've said this over and over again. Chansiri needs to sell up, or he needs to get some competent people to run the club for him if the Sheffield Wednesday are going to move forward. Because as a club size, they should be able to challenge to go up to the Premier League, and they're not going to do that with this muppet in charge. For Watford, I think you've got to say Cleverley's done a pretty decent job when you look at how the state that they were in at the start of the season, when a lot of people were tipping them to go down. I think he's done a pretty steady, solid job, and I think when you look at the squad, it's not that great to be honest. It's not terrible by any means, but it's not. It's pretty much seems to be a bang in the middle sort of mid-table championship squad. So he's done pretty well, I would say. But yeah, I'm sure both teams at least will be at least didn't end with a defeat. So at least that's something to. It's not really much to cling on to, is it? But you'd rather get something out of your last game than not.
Yeah, absolutely. A good point as well, taken as well with that.
Sorry, very quickly before you move on, I forgot to mention. And Tom Cleverley becomes the first Watford boss in ages to last a full season.
Yeah, I
That's
know
a good thing.
that is probably a good thing. You know what Watford are like very much with their managerial.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And I know a lot of clubs are these days, but Watford really make everyone else look patient by comparison.
well, they're definitely. I was between them and Chelsea. I think they're like the new Chelsea. They're like the Chelsea, the Championship of our league.
Championship Chelsea, I like it.
Yeah, very much. We come to your boys, Michael. come to end of the defeat for you guys and the end of this regular season. You lost
Yeah.
1-0 to QPR yesterday. Um, how was the atmosphere like? Because it's been a pretty much miserable end for you guys.
That's the understatement of 2025. Um, Do you know, to be honest, I didn't think we deserved to get beat. But again, it's more because I thought QPR basically had one good effort, scored it, and then sat back for the rest of the game. I think Southern created some decent chances, but not enough to really make QPR. Actually, no, there was one point blank header from point blank range that I think QPR had to save later in the second half. But there's no doubt in my mind that, look, we know that our bigger games are coming up now in the next week or so at least, but hopefully another three games left this season. But yeah, it's the form is definitely not inspiring. But as I said in response to Doug's question before, I think that the form of the teams around us, while better than us, obviously, it's still not causing me a massive amount of fear from everyone else. It's more how much do Sunderland want it. But for QPR, no, really good result on the final day. Away up at the stadium, I like it was a good response for them from losing 5-0 at home to Burnley, but also the chat about Cifuentes. That's been the headline stories this week around QPR, that he's been placed on gardening leave. So, and it looks like there's been a falling out between him and the sporting director at Loftus Road. So I'm going to be fascinated to see what happens with Cifuentes, because obviously last week there was mentions about him being linked with the West Brom job. Now apparently John Percy from the Telegraph saying it's not the case. So yeah, I suspect that, like with Danny Roll with Chef Wed, I'd be quite surprised if Cifuentes is at QPR next season. But I think it's probably more likely of the two of them. But you never know. But from our perspective, yeah, look, bigger games to come. Let's just hope we play show how much we actually want it, because I still believe we've got a squad capable of winning the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so as well too. We think so too. Right, we got
Yeah,
out
let's
of
get on to the ones that have got meaning to it.
we got me. To, should we start at the top or the bottom?
um, Let's start at the bottom. Let's leave you and Burnley to last, because I
Yeah,
imagine you want to have the last word. We'll save Leeds till the end.
well, let's start from the bottom, and we got to talk about the biggest shock we did not expect. We thought last week we said this team was going to be okay. We were not going to. It was not going to be for going down the relegation. But how Luton losing 5-3 at West Brom yesterday, I was staggered. I
So
was
was I.
staggered. I thought myself Preston was more the obvious choice because of their very form, but the way how they suffered, they're the fourth team to suffer successive relegations from the Premier League, and
Who are the others? I know we're one of them. Wolves are one of them, and who's the other one?
Swindon is and Swindon.
Oh wow, there you go, Luton. If there's any Luton fans watching, what an esteemed list to join. Um, you look at that Luton squad and you think, how on earth has that squad got? And how on earth is that? And I know games aren't played on paper, obviously, but I'm just getting the lineups now for the two of them. So you look at it, right? What is this? So Kaminsky, he was their main keeper in the Premier League, wasn't he?
Yes,
Yeah. So there's that one. There's McGuinness. There's Liam Walsh, I believe. Teo Asgard, who to be fair came in January, was looked really good. Carlton Morris, and you got. I mean, I don't think he was on the bench for this game, was he? No,
no, he's
Adebayo.
lying yesterday.
Adebayo wasn't on the bench for this game, but you've got the likes of him. Obviously, you've got Isaiah Jones. Come on, like I know that was just who started yesterday, but I know a lot of people don't like them, but the second tier pod made a good point. Now, if you ask who the biggest underachievers are in the league this season, it's got to be Luton. It's
Yeah,
absolutely got to be Luton. Like when you look at the start of the season, they were coming into it. Okay, look, they had the parachute payments, obviously, but a lot of that is going to go towards their new stadium, isn't it? So 1 year in the Premier League effectively pays, or I would imagine covers that stadium for them. Having said that, though, I think they probably expected a bit better than going down back to back. Is it a question you think that maybe they held on to Rob Edwards too long, and that they probably should have gotten rid a bit sooner than they did? But at the same time, when Matt Bloomfield came in, it took a while for things to start improving properly. So
indeed, yeah,
that's what I'd say in response to that one. So, but I like Matt Bloomfield for League One, and I think there is definitely something in him with Luton, because I think there has been some semblance of steady improvement with Luton. But let's not beat around the bush. Like survival was in their own hands on the last day, and I think Hull in particular. We'll get onto Hull in a bit, but I'd imagine Hull in particular will be extremely relieved that Luton basically turned sackless, to be totally honest, on the last day. So, and you look at some of the goals they conceded as well. By the way, it was just hopeless all over the place. It
yeah,
was absolutely tragic. The state of some of their defending, and I think the players in particular at Luton have got a lot to answer for, because as I've said before, yes, games aren't played on paper, but really that squad shouldn't have been anywhere near the relegation battle. And I've said that all season. I think that their squad's really underperformed. Um, and yeah, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I mean, it depends because now it's an issue of which players are they going to keep. Personally, for me, from my own personal perspective, in case Sunderland don't go up, Luton was the one I wanted to go down because they were the ones who I could see out of everyone down there being the biggest threat to a promotion race next season. But obviously, them going down with what they had wasn't good enough. And we've got to mention, to be fair, it's a good final day win for West Brom. Obviously, there's still uncertainty about who their new manager or head coach is going to be. But yeah, they've obviously scored some pretty decent goals. But let's be honest, Luton deserve to be relegated if Callum Styles is scoring twice past you. So that's
Yeah,
yeah. So big question marks at Luton. I think Matt Bloomfield will stay. I don't think they'll have any rush in getting rid of him. At least I'd like to think they won't. And I think
no,
obviously they'll. But obviously, I think the main objective has got to be to bounce straight back and to go up because even with their new stadium, look, we know that they're nowhere near the size of the club that say Leeds and Sunderland are. But at the same time, they won't want to be in League One. Um, Jose Cifuentes, I like it.
it's yeah,
Jose Cifuentes. Yeah, but they won't want to be in League One because in the new stadium, it's not exactly enticing to supporters really. So I think they need to be in the Championship really. But look, I'm confident if Luton keep Bloomfield, which I think they will, and if they keep the vast bulk of their squad. And maybe add a few fresh faces because that might also be a good thing. You might need to freshen it up a little bit. Then I've got
yeah.
every belief Luton should be at least bouncing for the playoffs, at least if not top two next season. But I don't know what you think. I think that their players have got a lot to answer for this season. I think.
They do. Listen, they only spent that the summer they had when they got promoted. They only spent £20 million, 20th of the sum that was laid out by Chelsea last summer, despite being the least resourced club to ever play in a Premier League level. I don't know pushover, and this is what I was reading from the Athletic earlier today, and I have to say because with everything of the practical solutions as well too is mainly, with the like Ross Barkley go for £5 million, Aston Villa, Albert Lambis Lukonga going back to Arsenal, Chedi Umbege who signed for Ipswich Town last season, after when,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, and they said Ross was impossible to replace. What Gary Street said, told the Athletic, and and that was the issue they had, and they only spent £26 million this season after having reached the seasons. Especially, it's not the style, but for the sense of Paul said that it was always meant that Edwards was not equipped with a really good amount of really squad for a realistic promotion challenge, So and showed that in that opening day weekend when they lost 4-1 to Burnley in that opening game, that just shows you that they really not didn't strengthen.
No, they didn't, and I think that I wonder whether have Luton kind of rested on their laurels a bit this season and thought, oh well, we've got the because, and I don't blame them for thinking this necessarily that we've got a relegated squad, we should be all right, but um, I got the impression last summer when they were in the Premier League that a lot of the signings they were making were for the Championship for this season in the expectation that they were going to get relegated. And in that sense, yeah, I don't think I can really fault Luton for planning it that way. But I mean, even Chong, there's another one who they signed from Birmingham 2 years ago when they got promoted to the Prem. So it's going to be, yeah, I'm really keen to see what'll happen with Luton this summer. But yeah, I mean, from losing 4-1 at home to Burnley, then sometimes just looking like their players had jacked it in. To be totally honest, so but it's weird because out of all of our games this season, one of our toughest ones was Luton away, and I thought well, actually that was a really difficult fixture.
Yeah, I
As you
can
guys,
agree with that as well too. Yeah,
Luton away is a harder game. Luton at Kenilworth Road is a harder game than what this season will suggest. To answer Doug's question, are Luton in free fall based on this season? Yeah, at the moment. So it's and I think the Not the Top 20 pod made a point about it and said that it was something like their journey up the football pyramid, and even as well as say 2019. Sorry, 2018, they were in League Two, then were promoted to League One. 2019, promoted to the Championship. 2023, promoted to the Premier League. Then 2024, relegated to the Championship, and now 2025, relegated back to League One. So
yeah.
yeah, it's definitely not been boring last 10 years for Luton, but yeah, they need to regroup and get their act together for next season. That's for sure.
They will do because it depends who gets knocked out in the playoff semi-finals for League One. There's going to be some good teams with the challenger, and particularly one of them's going to I think will surprise is probably Reading because of the future of their ownership has been more and has now been settled now.
Thankfully, yeah.
So, and that I think that's going to be a question as well. And I think Bradford City now got promoted yesterday, late
Yeah.
yesterday. So the League One is going to be more exciting next season because some of the former Premier League teams and some of the teams that have been around the Football League are going to be really competing a lot.
And as well, if you look at other clubs, I mean, I think apologies if you've just mentioned them, but like Rotherham, Barnsley, Huddersfield, Peterborough, they're all clubs that are even Wigan to an extent because they're clubs that have historically, when they've been in League One, have competed near the top. Maybe Peterborough less so in recent seasons, but in general, they compete. They're expected to, or should be expected to compete near the top of League One. The good thing for Luton, and I suppose by extension Cardiff and Plymouth as well, because spoiler, Plymouth got relegated as well, even though that was already done before this weekend, to be honest. But the good thing is that Birmingham and Wrexham are out of the division and that they're in the Championship, so that's two less teams to worry about. But all of the three teams that have gone down, I know Nathan has obviously probably got more of the emotional side of it with Cardiff, but let's be real, all three of them should have an excellent chance, really, of bouncing straight back if they get their act together. But you're right, you've got them. So say you've got them three. Bradford, a club who I think is too big for League One, let alone League Two. Very
Yeah.
quickly, the limbs there was something else, by the way, yesterday.
Oh yeah.
And I'm glad to see that they've got promoted. I mean, maybe Carl, maybe less so, but because obviously I'm not from Yorkshire, so I don't mind
I'm not
Bradford.
bothered. It don't bother me. I'm
Okay, well, in which
okay.
case, yeah. In which case,
Hey,
yes.
hey, it's better. It's better for. It's gonna be better for them to only go drive about 5-6 miles to Huddersfield. So it'll be good for them
I
to
like
get
it.
to beat their asses at Johnston Stadium because I have to play at Johnston. When I was back there. It was a ghost. It's still a ghost town. The way it was, even though my mum was helping out with a funeral with the catering, but it felt like a ghost town that
I can
place. So
imagine. I can imagine. Well, yeah, but you're right. Like Bradford at League One level should be able to compete. Even Grant McCann at Doncaster was saying something like, "We're not just going to try and aim for 15th or 16th. We want to compete." And yeah, there was a point of like even 6 years ago in Sunderland's first year in League One, Doncaster finished in the playoffs in League One. So that's
absolutely.
gonna be a different one. I feel like I'm hearing myself twice. This is very very weird.
Weird.
Well,
There he is.
but we.
Hello.
How you doing, Doug?
How you doing, Doug? Yeah, I'm not too bad. I've had I've had a couple of Marietis this evening, so if I feel a bit worse for wear, then obviously apologies for that. But no, it's about time I joined one of these because I haven't actually joined one all season. I don't think.
No, you haven't.
No, you haven't.
So he picks the
So
time
he
when
picks
Leeds
the
have
time
won the
when
league.
Leeds have won the league. Oh, always the excuse
I don't know
when we
the
come to Leeds, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
surprised
I'm
you get
surprised
crashed
you get
through,
crashed
and I
through.
thought you'd be wearing
And I
your
thought you'd be
headset,
wearing your
especially with
headset, especially with
the
the
echo I can hear in the
echo I can hear in
background
the
with
background
both of
with
us.
both of
Yeah,
So
that
us.
is
So
very
yeah, that
very
is
off
very
putting.
very off putting. Oh, is there an echo? Is there? Give me two
Yes,
ticks.
yes,
I'll
yes.
yes.
oh,
Oh God. But
Douglas Gate crashes with us. That's
there's
amazing.
technical problems with Doug. But quickly to finish on the point with Luton. So yeah, from all the relegated clubs, it's a good perspective that Birmingham and Wrexham are out of the league. But yeah, I mean, like you said, so Bradford from League Two, Doncaster to a lesser extent. Then you've got obviously Cardiff, Plymouth, Luton. You've got Rotherham, Barnsley, Huddersfield, Peterborough. A lot of them have had really disappointing seasons. And then look who, if say for example Stockport, Charlton, or whoever don't win the playoffs, Wickham. They've got Mike Dodd, so I'm not so sure about that one. But you look at say, but if Charlton don't go up, for example, I think Nathan Jones will be wanting to compete at the top again next year. So League One's going to be, I mean, the Championship will be as well, but League One will be a very, very competitive division. So yeah, it's going to be big summer ahead for all three relegated
Yeah,
teams. But yeah, from Luton specifically down to Luton, yeah, I think it's a travesty. Getting relegated from the Prem wasn't a shock. I think most people expected it, even Luton fans did. But when you look at this season, for Luton to have got relegated with the squad they had was just an absolute disgrace, in my opinion.
absolutely. Doug, well, hopefully there'll be no echo now because we got your headset on. So
Well,
yes,
I can't hear you twice, so that's a good start.
Yeah, apologies. I think I've sorted it now anyway.
you have.
Yeah, you have done. We can't hear ourselves again.
That's good.
Good, good. Doug, let's give you a take on, especially with Luton as well. You just did a free fall. How did they
Yeah,
screw themselves on the last day of the season to get relegated, and instead of how the other teams around them, who particularly like
It was in
Preston
their hands,
forward,
wasn't it? Yeah.
it's quite crazy. I mean, I thought they were the most impressive team to come out of the Premier League last season. Because I think, if we're being honest with ourselves, I think Sheffield United and obviously Burnley went down, but I think those two kind of disgraced themselves a little bit. And I think when it came to Luton Town, I always had this feeling of like, yeah, they've gone down, but they've got a really good squad to continue. But I think you saw throughout the season that they just didn't have the squad, and I think there's a wee stat I think going around. If they like won, is it something like 17 games in 86 games or something?
Yes, that was a stat. I was shocked as what I saw yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah, I saw that last night, and it is quite a real surprise that. But I think when we're looking at Luton Town, is the fact is that they've gone down, but they haven't gone down really with a whimper. They've almost like got absolutely gubbed at West Brom, and sort of tried to rely on sort of other results happening. Obviously, if Hull had lost at Portsmouth, for example, then obviously Portsmouth would always send Hull down. But it almost felt like Luton Town had the advantage of trying to get back into trying to stay up, but it's almost felt like all season that they've had problems after problems. And I asked if they're on free fall. I think they are. I think they are now going into League One. So it could be an interesting season for Luton Town next season.
it could be, and I think the problem is, I think they missed that leadership of Tom Lockyer, who,
Yeah,
despite after what was going on when he actually collapsed on the pitch in the playoff final and the game against Bournemouth last season, and then him being out for the rest of the season, he's now going to be out of contract this summer. That's going to be a big leader. Leader's going to be missing that if he leaves next season.
very
'Cause
quickly. Yeah, I mean, although it'll be a big blow for Luton, thankfully Tom Lockyer is all right. That's the first most important thing.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I think that is going to be a big miss for them. Yeah,
absolutely, indeed. Well, let's go to Fratton Park and Hull. As glad that without the outcome of that result yesterday, they have survived. On the rumor says after drawing 1-1 at Portsmouth, Max Crooks scored in the 18th minute, but they got the equalised by Christian Sadie scored in the 55th minute. And as I said to you guys, give credit to Ruben Sellers. He's kept them up. Like he said, that was a tough job
Yeah.
to leave Reading, but he's done a good job of keeping them up.
I think when you look at Carl and Michael, I think they made a big mistake getting rid of William Rosenior last season. Um, Look, he's doing a magnificent job for Strasbourg and the French league, and obviously they've had their struggles with Tim Bolter. Obviously he went, and now obviously Ruben Sellers came in. I think he's done a very good job to keep them up this season. But if you look at Portsmouth as well, John Messinho, I think he's done a really good job, and I think a lot of people kind of maybe expected sort of Portsmouth being possibly the only team to potentially like come up and obviously stay up. I don't think anyone expected Oxford United to do what they've done, but fair play to what they've done. And then obviously, the other one, Derby. Fair play. It doesn't happen very often that the three promoted teams all stay up in the same season.
Yeah, that's a
absolutely.
good point. That is a good point. Actually, it's very rare for all three teams who are coming from League One to stay up. Actually, that is a good point, and they've done them quite well. And like I said, two of the clubs took the biggest decision to sack their managers, and one of them was um, one of them was Derby, as well as Oxford United as well. And we are going to
Yeah,
turn our attention to Derby and Stoke because the both of them played against each other on the final day, and they both avoided relegation regardless of the draw what happened at Luton. So I have to give credit to John Eustace. That was a big good ball for him to go from a team that was chasing playoffs to go to a team that is fight for relegation. I don't. It's amazing how I think everyone thought it was a sideways move, but plan worked out quite well.
I think if you look at the there was a debate about the time about which out of the two clubs which is bigger, obviously. But I think if you take that aside for a moment, I think that this is why I said last week, and I think Carl agreed with me, and I imagine Doug probably will as well. I hate the EFL. I mean, I don't know what the Premier League's like, but I hate the manager of the awards of the season being done before the season is officially completed. Because for me, one of the guy you've literally just mentioned should be in contention for manager of the season. Not only has he's done a manager of the season job at two different clubs in the same season, which is at Blackburn, he basically got them well clear of the bottom three when he'd lost his main goal scorer in Sammy Smodics last summer, had managed to organise Blackburn, got a steel togetherness and determination with them, had managed to get them competing for the playoffs, and in the end only just missed out on the playoffs on, it was either by a point or goal difference. I think it was goal difference. No, sorry, it was a point because Bristol City drew. But yeah, there was that. And then also with that Derby squad, if you really look at that Derby squad, it's not screaming outright championship quality. Not across the whole ends of the pitch anyway. And that was a big call. It was a big jump to him to leave Blackburn at the time where they were and then to go to Derby. But fair play, by the way, and I think from John Eustace in particular, that is a phenomenal effort to keep Derby up. And obviously, once both Derby and Stoke, and we're going to mention Mark Robins because he's obviously, although we have this perennial cycle with Stoke about how a manager comes in, keeps the club up, then starts poorly, then gets sacked thing. But with Mark Robins, I think they've steadied the ship somewhat, but we know that Stoke need to have the point where they need to actually kick on and need to actually start doing something. But we've said this for the last 5 seasons now, so we'll wait and see how much fruit there is in that. But both of them, very quickly before Doug says his point, I think both of them, I imagine, would have gone, do you know what, Luton's losing? Yeah, let's just settle for a draw. Let's just not excite ourselves and not get injured ahead of going on the beach.
Listen, Matt Roberts has been through that situation before when he was at Huddersfield Town, and it was the same scenario because even though people was going down after lost Chris Pies, Huddersfield and Barnsley just said, you know what, we'll draw 2-2. Because I was at the game that day. Let's just hold it. We don't need to play much now. Let's just call it even.
Let's just not one of us annoy the other one. Let's just be both happy.
Yeah.
I think when we come to Stoke, I think they're the most consistent championship side ever.
But the problem is consistency is not particularly good, is it? It's like 16th.
Yeah, well, they obviously finished was it 18th this season, which I think is quite an interesting position.
So
but yeah, obviously
16 to 17th last year and then 18th this year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear, we're on the decline.
Oh yeah, they're literally on. They're actually
they'll go down like
19th
and 20th and 21st. So in 4 seasons' time, they're going to be in League One playing Port Vale.
Yeah, I think so. But no, I think I think Stoke weren't going anywhere under Steven Schumacher, were they? That appointment didn't really work out, and then obviously Mark Robins coming in did a very good job.
They had Bielich, didn't he? The former Norwich City goalkeeper coach, I think, before he went to Stoke.
Yeah.
So it's funny because with Schumacher, quite a number of Stoke fans felt that wasn't the right call to get rid of him, and I think he was doing okay. He was doing an okay enough job, but yeah, I mean, I suppose they've probably done well to stay up when usually teams that have 3 head coaches or managers in a single season tend to struggle. So they've probably done all right. I mean, they've just kept themselves above water, obviously, by a few points. So, and we know something needs to change long term going forward. But yeah, I think Robbins has done a decent job, but Eustace has done an outstanding job.
Yeah, and it's quite ironic we're actually talking about Watford as a one manager team season for once.
Yeah, we literally said it earlier, didn't we? Like Tom Cleverley must have made history by being the first Watford manager in God knows how long to actually last a full season there.
I know.
Fair play.
Yep, fair play indeed, fair play. Right, we've done pretty much the bottom half teams now, so we're done with that. Let's move on to the playoff race, which was very exciting. And since Annie's not here, and I wish he was actually, but I have to say, Pressing off and was looked like they were going to be that team going down yesterday. That was my prediction. What I said on the Saturday show yesterday. I said last week on here as well. I don't know how they survived. They went 1-0 ahead at half time. That was shot to go 2-0 ahead after 60 minutes, and somehow Bristol City come back with 2 goals because they thought they were going to miss out. How did Bristol City come back with 2 goals down? That is just
I'm just looking. Would they? I'm trying to look at the. Oh, I'm looking at the golden. Oh yeah, so if they'd hang on. Oh well, it turns out if they'd lost, they would have got in anyway because obviously Blackburn and Millwall and didn't win, and obviously Borough lost. So, but yeah, at the time they weren't to know
Mm.
that. So I think from their perspective, for a bit of momentum, coming back from 2-0 down to get something is still pretty good. And I think, but you've got, and also when we talk about managers of the season very quickly, I think Liam Manning's name's got to be in the
Yeah.
conversation for that because again, not just for the fact that for a club like Bristol City, and again, I can't say this without sounding condescending, but for a club like Bristol City, being in the playoffs, you saw the reaction when they got in. That for them, that's a huge deal, and they've deserved it. They've deserved absolutely to be in the to finish in the top six. And on top of that, with the personal tragedy Liam Manning had to suffer with losing his son, I believe it was,
Unborn
um,
son, yeah.
yeah, unborn son, and
Yeah.
which obviously is horrendous. You don't wish that on anybody, but to respond from that and to get them in the top six, and bearing in mind he was replacing Nigel Pearson, who at the time was quite popular by Bristol City supporters. So I think he's done outstanding this season. And do you know what? I wouldn't. We'll get onto the playoffs in a bit later, I'm sure, but I wouldn't bet. I'll tell you right now, I do not think that is an easy game whatsoever for the Sheffield United on Thursday night away at Ashton Gate. Because I think if I'm right,
No.
I can't remember if I'm right, but I think it's only the top four, possibly the top five, with Coventry winning yesterday. I don't know, but there's not many. I think it's only the top four for sure. Maybe Coventry that have got a better home record than Bristol City this season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean for yesterday, and obviously for Preston, look, with Luton losing, they weren't going to ever really be in trouble. But again, at the time, they weren't to know that. So yeah, I think. But again, you looked at the reaction at Ashton Gate, like that's phenomenal. And
Do,
and you of
do
course will
you
be.
guys?
Sorry, and quickly,
Sorry.
and you'll be delighted because Bristol Rovers got relegated in the same week that Bristol City got in the playoffs. So you'll be thinking life is good.
True.
Yeah. No. I was just going to actually ask you guys. Do you think it's a bit of a concern for Preston that they've finished so low? Because I think a lot of people sort of had them as a sort of a proverbial sort of mid-table
Yeah,
side. But I think the fact that they've actually survived in the final day, and look, it was going to take a monumental effort for the teams at the bottom anyway to win it, to win their games and then drag them into it. But it must be a bit of a cause for concern, and I'm not so sure. I, I'll probably say this now, probably as an early prediction, but I don't think Paul Heckingbottom lasts the season at Preston next season.
I don't think that's audacious to say. To be fair, I
Yeah.
don't think he will either.
No, I do as well. I think the running, the one that had the FA Cup run, and I think it affected him so much. I think it was the game against Burnley with after all the controversy happened, what happening in that game as well. I think it took a lot out of them, and I think with their
Yeah,
poor run form out of the teams that were battling for relegation between 18th and 22nd, they were one of the worst out of form team. The team was out of form with 4 losses on the trot before yesterday, and it was very concerning. Of thinking it was still in there. It was out of their hands if they will go down or not. And to somehow to get a draw, yes, at Ashton Gate is incredible in
Mm.
a way because I think that team deserves to go down because that team has not been well. I think it's been going back to what with the Ryan Lowe days. There's no there's no vision of what they wanted to do. I think that's the only issue they have at the moment. I can't see Heckenbottom. I don't think he will last till by the end of this year. I can't see it happen. I don't think he will get beyond the end of this year.
Carl, just on that, do you think, and Michael, I'll ask you this as well, do you think they're favourites for relegation next season?
I don't know if I'd go as far as favourites, but I think they'd be in the conversation for it.
Yeah,
I think they are. I think the problem we've said all season with Preston is that if you're going from, and I'm basing this just off his time at Sheffield United when they got promoted, but if you compare what Ryan Lowe's squad was like and how he was going to have them playing, and then you switch to Paul Heckenbottom, who screams to me as a different style to Ryan Lowe completely because the Preston fans want more
Mm.
attacking football, which I understand, but did he have the squad to do it? So in some senses, he's probably not done too badly to keep Preston up in the end, but what you can't ignore is that the form recently has been really alarming, and it's the proverbial if me auntie had nuts, she'd be my uncle and all that stuff. But like, if the season had gone on a couple of weeks longer, because every chance they could have gone down. And I think we've said before that it looks like they kind of went, "Oh, we're out of the FA Cup now. What?" That's
yeah,
kind of the mindset it felt like to me, where they kind of went. Their big season, their big point of the season was the FA Cup run. And fair enough, beating Burnley, who I imagine they probably don't have fond feelings towards, beating them 3-0 is always good for them. But for next season, I think it depends. They need to decide for me if Paul Heckenbottom is who. If they're gonna, it's the classic: either get rid of him or back him. One of the two. If you're going to have him next season, you need to recruit players to play the way he will want to play, and you need to have, and obviously have them be good enough. Of course, you can't just have League Two style players to play the way he wants to play in the Championship, because that is not going to go very well. But I feel like if Preston are going to do anything next season, then, and I mean anything like good, then that's something that needs addressing. But to answer your question, I wouldn't be. I don't know if I guess with favourites, it depends who else is in the conversation, really.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if they're in that conversation heavily. No.
Yeah.
I just can't wait to look back at my predictions, because I know for a fact I've got the top two spot on.
So did I.
I
So
know
did I.
I know I had Leeds and Burnley in the top two, but I know one of my ones is embarrassingly bad. And I think Carl can tell who I'm probably going to predict.
Does it by any chance involve a team that we've discussed 5 minutes ago?
Yes.
Yes, it
I
is.
thought it would be. Yes, I'm sure it was.
Yeah,
yes, because I think everyone had that kind of feeling that it was going to be Leeds Burnley, but I don't think many people sort of maybe had Sheffield United to be sort of in the playoff running. I know, obviously. Look, I think it's great that they're in the playoffs, especially having the points deduction to start the season as well. However, I just kind of look at that game on Thursday, and I tell you something, if Bristol City can get a good sort of first leg lead, it makes it very interesting for that game next week, because Bristol City are very, very good at home. And look, it'd be fantastic to have a team from Bristol in the Premier League. It really, really would.
That's fine, as long as it's not at the expense of Sunderland, so that can happen next season if we're in the Premier League.
Absolutely, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But
no, look, I think great result for Preston, great for Liam Manning, and not bad, especially losing obviously Tommy Conley earlier this season to
How
Middlesbrough.
funny is that? Yeah, like he's gone to Middlesbrough, and obviously on paper it should be a step up in terms of who's got a better chance of making the playoffs, and then his old employers get in the playoffs, and Middlesbrough win 10. Yeah, but Joe, my bold shout is I don't know if I necessarily fancy them to win the tie, but I think Bristol City will win on Thursday. I've got a gut feeling.
I think they will as well.
I think gut feeling, but I think Ashton Gate will be bouncing that night.
Yeah.
And I think if Sheffield United want to get through, I think for Sheffield United, if you get anything out of Bristol City as in a draw, I mean, obviously a win, of course, would be preferable. But if you get a draw, that's pretty good, I think. But and I'd say the same if we got Bristol City, by the way. But yeah, so yeah, I just fancy Bristol City on Thursday for some reason. So Andy's probably going to curse me come Thursday 10 o'clock if that ends up being wrong.
True.
No, like I think it's going to be a very, very. I think two fantastic ties. Let's be honest. Are you away at Coventry to begin with?
Away first, home second. Yeah.
That's massive. I think having the second leg at the Stadium of Light. So we'll see.
Well, I think my caveat is weirdly in the dreaded League One years, which I get PTSD just thinking about that putrid division. But if you look at the 3 seasons in there, 3 of the 4 seasons, we had the playoffs, obviously. But the 2 times we got to Wembley, we had the home leg first. But weirdly, I think but it can be massive. I think it's massive as long as we don't disgrace ourselves in the first leg, because we obviously have to make sure we get something at least at Coventry first, or if we do lose, make sure it's only by 1 goal, so we're still in the tie. But yeah, we'll deal with that when we come to it. But yeah, so we'll see. But Coventry Sunderland's obviously a pretty big game. I think Bristol City, Sheffield United. I think the 2 times I've watched Sheffield United against Bristol City this season, the game at Ashton Gate, Bristol City got robbed to not win the game, let alone lose it.
Yeah.
And I think apparently the game at Sheffield United, Bristol City were knocking on the door constantly for the equaliser, and it was deserved when it came. So if they perform like they did in the 2 league games, I don't think Bristol City have got anything to fear from Sheffield United.
No, I don't as well.
I think Bristol City should have beaten Sheffield United at least at Bramall Lane. I watched that. I remember watching that game. I think Bristol City had the lion's share of the play, and I think as well they probably should have won probably 3 or 4-1, because They had so many
They
chances.
missed some
I
big
think they
chances that night,
outplayed
didn't they?
Sheffield United that night.
Yeah, they missed some big chances that night, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Hmm.
They did with some huge big chances as well. Actually, Michael, I do remember Bristol being in the playoff. It was 2007 or 8. It was a season that they had under Gary Johnson that season, and they lost to Dean Windass from the volley against Hull in the
Mm.
playoff at that time. And he is pretty much been busy this week. It's his brother's birthday today. So
So they've
he
obviously gone out for a family birthday meal, hadn't they? So how dare his brother have his birthday and they celebrated? Couldn't have moved the day he was born.
listen, you can't always move your birthdays.
No, absolutely. So we've got Annie abandoning us for a family matter, and we've got Ant having a social life conveniently. What's going on here?
Look, he said he didn't want to come on till Coventry gets knocked out. That's the plan. He
Well,
said,
hopefully Coventry get knocked out in the semi-finals.
"Yeah,
Well, from my
well,
perspective, anyway.
I know he loves them so much."
Oh,
Right?
absolutely. I think Ant will probably have Sunderland colours on his bedroom wall or something if we beat Coventry over two
He
legs.
will do. He will do. No doubt about it. Oh god. Let's go to Coventry's win against Middlesbrough. They won 2-0, and Jack, I've said, Jack
Jack Redoni, yeah.
Redoni, he's probably been one of their best players this season to get the 2 goals as well, and it was vital. Who against a Middlesbrough side, who I think, Doug, I think this is going to be the end of Michael Carrick at some point because in the last 2 seasons not been good enough, especially they've been challenging of the money that they spent as well.
Yeah, feels like the end is nigh for Michael Carrick. I think when we look at what they've brought in as well, like obviously as I said Tommy Conway. I think that was a really good signing. Brought obviously Kelechi and Achuran earlier this season as well. So that didn't really work for them. No, I think I'm not. I don't like people sort of getting like losing their jobs, but I think if you look at Michael Carrick, he's tried to get Middlesbrough into the top flight. Unfortunately, yeah, it's just not happened. And I think Steve Gibson is a very patient man when it does come to hiring and sacking managers. Um, It'll be interesting to see what will happen sort of throughout the this week and probably like going on to obviously before the fixtures are announced as well. It'll be interesting to see if he does keep faith with Michael Carrick. But as I said to you yesterday, Carl, I wouldn't be too surprised if Middlesbrough do decide to make a change. Um, and actually, I forgot to mention obviously earlier as well because we're obviously speaking about Sheffield United. Chris Wilder doesn't have the best record in the playoffs, I believe. I
No,
don't think he's actually gone up with anybody, I don't think.
no, not
He
really.
did with Oxford in the National League, I believe, many years ago, but in the EFL, I don't think he has.
No, he hasn't. And
Yeah.
neither does Sheffield
So
United.
I think that's got to be a bit of a disadvantage to Chris Wilder as well. And good because I can't stand the man.
Absolutely as
I
well.
hate I hate the guy, as Carl very well knows. I have repeated quite a number of times that I was reveling
Definitely.
when they lost a few games on the well, as Carl was, but I was reveling for different reasons when they lost a few games on the spin because I don't like the pillock that's Chris Wilder either. I really cannot stand the
And then
man.
he's another Chris that's coming through. How you doing, Chris? How was El Crapico yesterday in the game against Southampton?
What's it, the battle of 19th versus 20th in the Premier League?
Yeah,
Joe, very quickly, yeah, I mean, obviously the record's quite interesting for Chris Wilder, but yeah, I think that again, I suppose records are there to be broken at some point. It's like our recent horrendous record against Coventry. So, I mean, as Brian said there, looking forward to Friday night. So let's hopefully stay in the match. That's interesting because I'd imagine Coventry fans would obviously want to get a lead to come back to the Stadium of Light. But it should be interesting. I can't confess to be looking forward to it at all. But we'll wait and see. But very quickly on Coventry, obviously was a professional. How bad must it? Oh God. Yeah, there's that going. How bad must you be? We lose every week. To be fair, though, if you look at Coventry, right, obviously Ant's favourite team in the history of football, but if you look at Coventry. It was a profession. It honestly didn't. It honestly didn't surprise me that they beat Borough. I would have been very surprised if Borough had gone there and got. Obviously, for them, only a win would have been good enough. But it probably says a lot about how inconsistent that playoff race was in terms of how inconsistent the playoffs were. In that Borough were still in it mathematically going into the final day, because I've always been someone
Mhm.
that I think a lot of people make a lot more out of Borough's squad than's actually there. And I don't think it's bad squad by any means. I think it should be in the top six. It should be finishing in the playoffs for me. But it was when people were going on about they were going to make top two. I'm like, not for me. I never once felt that Borough were going to really be within the top two conversation. But from Coventry's point of view, very professional job, and Frank Lampard's done a decent job since he's gone there. He's obviously got them into the playoffs, and it makes you wonder that would they have been on the similar points Sunderland were, for example, if it weren't for the bad start they had.
Yeah.
So, that's obviously an interesting question to consider. But from Borough's point of view, I'm with Doug. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm expecting Borough to make a change, to be honest, because I understood with Carrick last season, because you bear in mind, you had Ryan Giles go, you had Zach Steffen go, yeah, they sold Akpom, they lost Archer, they lost Aaron Ramsey from Aston Villa, they lost a lot of players in one go and had to replace them, and that's quite difficult. So I understood it last season that they finished, what was it, 8th, I think it was,
Yeah.
on something like 69 points, I believe. Whereas this season, I don't think he's had the excuse not to be finishing in the top six. And as Annie mentioned last week, he's an example of a manager or a head coach who isn't adaptable when things start to go against Borough. And I think Borough, if you appoint someone who's got the similar sort of playing philosophy as Carrick, but has a bit more adaptability in tough situations, there's no reason why next season they shouldn't be finishing in the top six. But yeah, I think if they got rid of Carrick, I don't think Carrick can have too many complaints, considering he's been there for 2.5 years now.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. I really do. I think, especially, yes, he sold Latch and Laugh for a huge money to Atlanta United, but that doesn't mean that, and especially with Iniacho, because he was linked to, he was offered to us as well, but because of his issues, because he's put on weight as well, he was not fit. He was not really fit at all. So
Look who got a better end of
I,
that
th-
deal
I
then.
think I think them selling Latty Lat derailed their season. I think.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I really rate Tommy Conway as a player, despite that we've just laughed about how he's gone to a club that's finished behind his former one. But I do rate Tommy Conway quite highly. But yeah, Lat offers a different dimension that I think Borough have struggled to have since. The thing from their perspective is they sold him quite late in the window, didn't they? I'm
yeah,
pretty sure they sold him very late in the window, so they didn't have as much time to go out and reinvest significantly
no,
in
they
that
didn't.
regard. So for me, I think what they need to do this summer is find someone who is almost a Latty Lat replacement to complement what they've got with Conway, because going forward, they've got talent. If you look at like Morgan Whittaker as an example, you've got, I think, is it Bergzorg? Is it Bergzorg, or have I got that name wrong?
Yeah,
Bergzorg on the left, on one of the flanks. Then you've got Finizaz in the middle. Bear in mind, Finizaz and Whittaker interlinked really well at Plymouth. You've got them to work with. You've got some attacking talent right there. One of the biggest departures, I think, and I think you could tell by his reaction at the end of the game, it looks like Hayden Hackney will probably be off this summer, I would
yeah,
I
imagine.
was going to mention him. He's been one I've been like watching very, very with a close eye on because I know
He's been
he's a
one of their
very,
best
very
players
good
this season, I
player.
think.
I'd be very shocked if he's not in the Premier League next season.
yeah. I agree. Yeah, it's not surprising because his qualities is too good for the championship. I really do, and I think like what Michael said, the first these reactions said, "Oh, he looked like he's going to be gone this summer, gone from the Riverside this summer."
And I think he's going to be, whatever happens going forward, I think he's going to be remembered fondly enough from Borough fans this season. And rightly so from a lot of his performances. But yeah, I think I'm with you, Joe. I think I'd be very surprised if he's at Middlesbrough next season. I think a lot of Borough fans, to be fair, would expect it as well. But yeah, I think, and as to touch on it again, I think a 10th place finish. If you notice, they finished something like 4th in Carrick's first season, then they finished 8th, and now they finished 10th. So they're in essence going backwards, and
It's
probably in a
been
weaker.
digressing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
Every season.
and in a weaker, well, last season to be fair was a different example, but this season's been weaker than say 2 years ago in terms of the playoff picture. So in terms of fifth and
Mm.
sixth downwards, so you know, yeah, I think with Borough there's going to be changes one way or for different reasons, both in terms of coaching staff and in terms of players this summer. I think.
yeah, no, yeah, agreed,
Fair
agreed.
play to Frank Lampard as well, coming into obviously a job that Mark Robbins kept for a number of years, and
Yeah, that was
obviously
a
he was
big
let
call.
go. I think everyone was very angry at that decision to let Mark Robbins go, but fair play to Frank Lampard for getting him into the into the playoff picture. To be fair, I had Coventry in the playoffs this season. I'll be honest.
So did I.
I think I had them fourth. I think so.
Doug's just
To
done the
obviously
same
finish.
table as me. I'm sure I went Leeds first, Burnley second, and Coventry fourth in my predictions as well.
You've been watching my vids.
Yeah, no comment.
But no, I think I think I had Coventry in the playoffs. Funnily enough, well, this is going to come back to backfire anyway. But I think I said Coventry to win the playoffs, so I hope I'm wrong for Michael's sake.
Well, knowing our record against Coventry, I wouldn't bet against it.
Mm.
But again, records there to be broken, so we'll see. But yeah, I mean, look, Coventry. I mean, if you look at Coventry's squad, I think Coventry squad's a top 6 squad as well. I really rate a lot of the players. They've got Sakamoto, Haji Wright, Ellis Sims, Jack Radoni. Is it Josh? No, not Josh. What's his name? Matt Grimes.
Not Grimes, yeah.
And
Have they still,
Swansea, yeah.
yeah, have they still got Ben Sheaf, or is he injured at the minute?
Ben Chief's still there, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if they'd sold him for some reason, but yeah, no. So there's a lot of players there that I really, really do like. So, yeah, I'm very keen to see. Well, I'm intrigued to see what happens between Coventry and Sunderland over the 2 games, because obviously the last time we played Coventry, we disgraced ourselves and didn't really show why we're fourth. And I'm hoping that we show that. But look, Coventry, no doubt, are going to be really, really tough opponents. And I rate Haji Wright. I said along, I think he's one of the best strikers in the division. But Frank Lampard's done well. And you got to remember, like with when Oxford sacked Des Buckingham and when Coventry sacked Mark Robbins, the comparison is that both calls were considered massive at the time when they made those decisions, and both have proved to be the right one. So for different reasons, both have paid off.
Yeah, absolutely paid off. Coventry was 17th at the time when Frank Lampard took him, and he's been a tremendous one to finish into the final spots in the playoff race. A really good achievement for him. So after, especially there was questions about was he going to be good enough, especially after the jobs he did at not just at Derby, he did this job at Derby, but what happened at Chelsea and supposed to be Everton as well. I think he's redeemed himself to choosing the right club. Especially he knew the owner quite well, who felt like he fit what the club needed. So huge on that one. Brian Curran, good evening, Brian. Yes, hold us. I think the winner of Coventry Sunday will win the playoff fight. I'm also worried about Sunday. This was despite decent results between us. Yeah,
Brian, what have you been smoking, mate? To be fair, right, here's my prediction on the playoffs quickly. I actually probably agree with Brian. I think if we get past Coventry, I think we win it. Don't ask me where that's come from, by the way. It's just a gut feeling. I think if we get past Coventry, I think we win it. But I'm not going to. But again, it's a very this tie is so tight. I literally couldn't call it because while I can get what Doug means. I'm hoping Doug's right about having the home leg second being massive. But if we go into it, say 2 goals or more down, then I'd be unless we have a sensational 90 minutes, I don't see us getting through. But we'll wait and see. But yeah, I'm worried about Coventry certainly. And as Carl knows, I think I did it on my video that they were the one team I didn't want. So of course they were the team that we got.
yeah,
So, but if we want to go up, we have to beat Coventry at some point. So
yeah.
we'll see. But yeah, no, but Frank Lampard has done a good job, definitely. And it's good because he's had to rebuild not rebuild, but sort of enhance his reputation a bit after what's happened. Because I think in the first season he was at Chelsea before he had money to spend, I think he did a pretty good job that first season. Afterwards, he flopped. But I think at Everton, when you consider the basket case at Everton at the moment, I think he probably didn't do too badly there. I mean, he obviously did what every other coach has done in that he's kept them up. And obviously for Everton, it's a bit easier with the gap between the Prem and the Championship. But yeah, but from Frank Lampard's point of view, I mean, I think, look, and you got to remember, a lot of Coventry players will be going, holy shit, this is Frank Lampard we're playing for. Because a lot of them will remember watching him when they were younger, so or even starting in their playing careers. So yeah, it's going to be a very, very under no illusions. I think Frank Lampard has done a decent job, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done a decent job as well. We've got 3 games left to go, fellas. Let's start off at Bramall Lane and Sheffield United. They finished the season with a draw. Blackburn missed out on the place after a 1-1 draw. UK side needs goal 5 minutes after half time. They given the Rovers the lead. I'm done. It's equal out 9 minutes later. Can I ask you this, guys? Did we expect Blackburn to be so even after what happened with a couple weeks ago? I said to Michael, I think Blackburn's just missed out. It's a bit too late, but they were still in it till the last day of the season. Are you amazed how, like Doug, how much Blackburn was still in it, despite there was questions about the new manager coming in. Was he getting the bounce with Villa Ishmael coming in?
Just quickly
I
before Doug
think
says, you imagine that Blackburn players must have. You imagine that Blackburn players must have watched this video and said, "Do you know that Carl Levy, right? He's writing us off here. So let's stick this as motivation on each one of your phones and just go, screw you, dude, and we're going to go and finish in the playoffs."
that's
Yeah.
Carl Edwards Levy too.
Yeah, so you
Hey,
like that,
hey,
Carl? That was it.
hey! Listen,
Whoa, using his middle
Carl
name here.
Levy.
Whoa, what's
Oh
going
yeah,
on?
Carl Levy's dead. Yeah. So yeah.
Find Carl Edwards then. Carl Edwards Levy instead.
Yeah.
Carl Edwards Levy, yeah. No, like I think if you got to say, I won't say where I had Blackburn, but yeah, I was massively wrong about Blackburn. I actually thought they would really struggle, because I said, I think I said on I think in my championship prediction video, I said if they lose Smodic, I'd be worried where the goals would be coming from.
I think a lot of
But
people
no,
would be. Yeah.
fair play to Valerian Ishmael. I think he's done a really good job, and it only sort of makes it a good opportunity for Blackburn to go and sort of progress to next season. And I I think the Premier League is missing this, like a Blackburn Rovers. It's missing a Blackburn. It's missing a Sunderland. It's sort of missing like that old school sort of name. And no, fair play to Blackburn. I actually thought they might have beaten Sheffield United yesterday. I thought Sheffield United were kind of focusing ahead to that Bristol City game. I thought Blackburn might have a chance to get a win, but unfortunately, it was a 1-1 draw. Unfortunately for them, but if they keep the bulk of their squad and add a few, I think they could be in the playoff picture again next season. And as Jeffrey Burns says, Millwall as well. Especially after the loss of Matthias Sarkic earlier this season as
Yeah.
well. The tragic death of Matthias Sarkic. I think Millwall would have done very, very well. So I think the teams missing out on the playoffs, your Blackburns, your Millwalls, I think they can feel very, very hard done by. And I think you look at next season as well, they'll definitely be wanting to, continue that sort of that push to try and get into the playoffs. So no, fair play to Blackburn, fair play to Millwall, and unlucky to miss out in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair as well, like the result on itself, a draw at Bramall Lane is pretty good, really. And I was like you, Doug. I thought Blackburn would actually win at Sheffield United just because of the fact that top two's been done for weeks and so on. And I said that if Sheffield United were fighting for top two, obviously, then I wouldn't have thought Blackburn get anything at Bramall Lane. But I think Blackburn. I was like you two. Like I've obviously got it massively wrong. I thought after they lost at home to Middlesbrough, when you heard how toxic the atmosphere was, and it just felt like
Mm.
everything was just really, really going wrong. And so I thought, nah, they're just going to peter out into mid-table form. I do think with Ishmael, I think I'd love to see how they do in the window and to see before I make a judgment on them being in the playoffs next season. But John Eustace has laid the foundations there, so there's an opportunity there to build on it. You've just got to see, and obviously this is the Venkies we're talking about, but it remains to be seen whether they go and take that opportunity or not. So yeah, we'll wait and see. Very quickly, Jeffrey, by the way, I hope you're right. You just put Sunderland for the playoffs, saving the best for that. Please.
Yeah.
Please. This is like, I can imagine Carl's been nervous for the last few weeks in the build up to before Leeds' promotion was confirmed. Now it's my turn to be nervous. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but no, for Blackburn, really good effort this season, I think. Both across from Eustace and with Ishmael.
Absolutely as well. Good evening, Hammers Football TV. Thank you for subbing. Really appreciate that, mate. As well.
Oh, hello. Hope you're well.
Yeah, and even to all in the chat, who Jeffrey Burns has given us a question, actually, serious question. Do you reckon Wrexham a look up runs out their looks runs out next season, or would it be more experienced and use the momentum?
It's an
It's a very
intriguing.
old squad, isn't it, at Wrexham?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The thing I would
Um,
say is with Wrexham is that Am I right in thinking financial fair play isn't as big a factor in Leagues 1, 2 in the National League? Not
Yes.
as much as it is in the Championship. Because
It,
if that's the case, then Wrexham are going to have to be quite careful what they do in terms of PSR.
yeah.
As I'm sure you both know, and Doug knows from the Premier League with Liverpool, like PSR obviously dictates a lot of what you can and can't do in the window. I think for me at some point Phil Parkinson will have to be replaced, and I think Phil Parkinson has obviously done unbelievable, by the way, in terms of but whatever money they've had to spend, you've still got to go out and do back to back to back promotions. That rarely back to back often doesn't happen, let alone
No.
3 times in a row. But I think Phil Parkinson, this is about the peak of his abilities, I think, as a manager. And obviously, like look at Sunderland, he didn't do particularly great, but I think for a club like Wrexham, he's obviously done really, really well. And it's,
Yeah.
but I think he will do. I think if he keeps them in the Championship or has them competitive, as in a certain amount away from the bottom 3, then you never know. And I imagine there'll be a bigger backing at Wrexham. So, yeah, I mean, Wrexham obviously have ambitions of getting to the Premier League, don't they? So,
Yep.
but obviously, I think for them it's going to be a few years in the Championship. But watch them win the league with 112 points and prove us wrong. So we'll see how that we'll see how that pans out. But yeah,
Yeah.
I do think they'll need to bring in a bit more. What's I'm looking for? Saleable assets to some extent.
Yeah.
And I don't mean with the idea of just selling them, but I mean like they've got the experience. Now go and get some useful energy for over a slog of a championship season to connect. What's what I'm looking for? Balance out the experience, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as well. Hopefully, Jeffrey. At least you've got a Welsh derby to look forward to next season. Yeah, like I think Wrexham is a fantastic story. I know there's obviously a lot of money behind, obviously Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds there as well, but they've done a very very good job to get back into the obviously the Championship. It's nice to see Wrexham back there as well. And look, they'll do well. Same with Birmingham as well. I think they've got enough to. I think when you look at Birmingham, the fact that they've paid 15 million to get Jay Stansfield, to for that amount of money from Fulham, I think many people kind of expected Birmingham to do well in League
Yeah.
One, and obviously they didn't quite get to 112, did they? The 109 they got to the end.
111, I think.
111.
David
Yeah.
House, 1 point off 112, not good enough.
But no, I think when you look at Birmingham, Wrexham will be fun to watch next season. I think as well. But yeah, Wrexham's an interesting one, and again, probably a bold shout. Again, I'm not so sure Phil Parkinson last the season at Wrexham.
Neither am I. I think if he keeps Wrexham up, for example, I'm interested to know what Wrexham fans think of this, what their aspirations are for next season, because
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
get the impression they won't be happy with just staying up, but at the same time, that's the minimum, if you know what I mean. The
Yeah.
bare minimum is make
Yeah.
sure you don't go back down again, but yeah. So I think, but even like Michael had just said in the chat there, you look at like part of the reason Birmingham paid as much as they did for Jay Stansfield. Like if you look at it from Birmingham, and I was saying this to a couple of mates today actually. Birmingham's point of view, relegation to League One, now they've got out of it at the first attempt, is probably the best thing that's happened to them, because without that, they wouldn't have been able to pay that money for Stansfield.
Yeah.
So, wouldn't have been in terms of PSR, would have been able to do that. So it just goes to how broken the system is. But at the same time with Wrexham, although they obviously have thrown money at it, Luton Town's an example this season where, although they had parachute money, which is way more than Wrexham's probably put into the club over a number of years, just because you got the money doesn't mean it's going to go well. You still have to go out and do it. So, yeah. And Wrexham, from what I've seen of the documentary, because I like Wrexham, Wrexham's really good, but it's a passionate fan base. I'll tell you that it's a very very passionate.
That'd be the slowest front two in the in the Championship. That.
But Vardy, I think, would be a good signing. I think Bamford's past his best now.
Yeah.
Was that Patrick Bamford's brother? Bamford.
Hi, Bamford. Yeah. Patrick
Yeah.
Bamford. Yeah.
Yeah, but interesting how Wrexham will do with the transfer business this summer. How the deals is going to be good enough for them to sustain themselves in the Championship. That's going to be an interesting summer in the Championship come this summer with them, being promoted up from League One.
Yeah.
We watch this space completely. That's what you need to do.
It's going to be. I tell you something. It's going to be a very very fun league next season. With like Southampton, Leicester, and Ipswich going down, and then you've obviously got what Birmingham, Ipswich, and probably one of Wycombe Wanderers.
Charlton Athletic
Oh yeah,
potentially.
Stockport.
Yeah, like one of them. That's going to be a fun league next season, and a fun league to to predict for sure.
Yeah, and if you look at it, you've got like Norwich will be looking to be better. Say, for example, if Sunderland, Coventry, Sheffield United, and Bristol City, whichever three of them four doesn't win the playoffs, you'd like to think would probably be in the conversation again next year. Maybe Bristol City depends on if they're able to keep Liam Manning, but certainly Sheffield United, Sunderland, and Coventry. If say Bristol City do win the playoffs, then they'll be looking to be right in the conversation. Quickly to get back to the Championship, if you're looking for Sheffield United's point of view, I think Sheffield United are kind of like in the position Sunderland have been in the last few weeks, where they're kind of right. Top two's done. We're now waiting for playoffs, but they've responded to missing out with 4 points from the last two games, which they definitely could have done a lot worse results wise. Jeffrey, there's another one. West Brom, depending on who they appoint, could be thereabouts. So it's going to be competitive in the Championship next season, that's for sure. But as far as the playoffs go, I think for Sheffield United, and for Sunderland, definitely over the last few weeks, we're now kind of at the point where we're just ready to see what happens. But I'm sure Carl will want to get onto the bit that will make him extremely happy from this weekend.
Yes, well,
I was just going to say there as well. Jeffrey seems to be enjoying Cardiff's demise.
very much.
I tell you, I did not have them going out of the Championship this season.
Did you see? Did you remember what? I don't know if you watched last week, Doug, but Nathan, poor lad. But obviously, what he actually said to us.
Oh yeah, Nathan's a good guy. Yeah.
Oh, Nathan's a sound lad. He's really funny as well, actually. But as well, one of the things he said which was quite shocking when I heard it, if this is true, apparently Cardiff's wage bill was the 8th highest in the Championship this season. If that's true, I don't know if that's true, but if that is abhorrently terrible to go down. To even be in a relegation battle alone, let alone going down. But goodness me, that's shocking.
Yeah.
And Michael's absolutely spot on about Danny Roll as well.
Yes,
honestly,
I have indicated my love for that man.
I honestly think if I was Leicester, I'd be trying to hijack that move. I would be trying to hijack that move.
Have to now. Yeah.
Can I say as well that I don't think this would happen, but if, say, we didn't go up and Regis Labrie got poached, for example, that's who I'd want to go for. I don't think we would get him, because I think the other two would have, the parachute money would have a bigger advantage over us. But if I was Leicester, if you're a relegated club, I agree with what Doug said. I think with Danny Roll, he's the guy you go for me, because I think he will have a squad that I'd love to see what he could do with a really good squad.
I'll also say this as well. Wherever Danny Roll goes, Josh Windass goes.
Yeah, that's
could be a shout. Well, Leicester need a new forward. Vardy's leaving, so why not?
Exactly.
Josh Windass firing them to the if Leicester have a points deduction, then that's going to be that's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening then, isn't it? Because obviously there's going to be a bit of upheaval at Southampton at the minute. Leicester obviously could be upheaval if Van Nistelrooy goes, which by all accounts he doesn't seem to be very popular there at the minute. If there's a points deduction and with the PSR EFL restrictions, I'm keen to see what happens with Leicester in the summer. But it is good. Like Doug said, I think trying to predict it next season is going to be very interesting.
Very, very, very
and
interesting.
Jeffrey, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Really is. Right, gentlemen, let's get into the final two games. I have to admit, there's never been two teams have finished with 100 points ever in the EFL Championship history. Never ever. And this was probably one for the ages. We did not know where the attack was going to go. And as I said, I'm going to leave Leeds till last, but I have to say, Burnley's probably been one of the best teams I've ever watched this season because of the defensive record that they got. Like I said, that record would never be broken. They've only conceded 16 goals across 46 games. That is never going to happen. They lost 2 games, they drawn 16, and won 28. But a 3-1 win against Millwall yesterday, who missed out on the playoffs. And I have to say, there was a lot of questions about Scott Parker during the season as well, especially when they got too many draws like this most of the mid-season. But to get some of the players in January, such as
Marcus
Marcus
Edwards.
Edwards from
Yeah.
from Swatley, that is, I don't know how that deals, and Jaden Anthony coming up Cassell, they just had one of the best seasons.
Isn't it mad though that they've had 100 points and finished second? That
Yeah.
is incredible,
Mhm.
and I think Doug will probably agree that I actually said at the start of the season I didn't think the quality at the top would be quite as good as last year, but it turns out it wasn't. It was better in terms of the points tally. So it shows what I know. And by quickly, I'm liking Jeffrey more and more by the second. The more I read of his comments, we'll see. Not able to get anyway, but yeah, no, with Burnley, right? To be fair, I mean, Millwall obviously under Alex Neil have done really, really well in recent weeks. So you got to bear in mind they ended up winning away at, say, Sheffield United, for example. And I think they've given themselves no disgrace by losing it at Burnley, obviously. But at the same time, you look at Burnley's defensive record. This is for me why I think Scott Parker deserved Manager of the Season. If you had to pick out of the top 4, at the minute, it would be Scott Parker because he's got 100 points and albeit finished second. But looking at it here, 16 goals. Hang on, was it 16? Yeah, 16 goals conceded in 46 games, and he's only lost twice all season. Been unbeaten at Turf Moor, by the way. We've gone the whole season unbeaten at home, which is maddening when you really look at it that way. And remember, at the start of the season, I'm sure we all said it, that Burnley's really looked very dull. They've just been basically nil-nilling their way every single week. But one of the things they've great because they've had that defensive structure in January, and since January, they've started to add goals to that as well. Once you start having that as a combination, there's only really one way that should end, and that's with at least automatic promotion. But I don't know what you think, Doug, but I think I'll get onto Leeds in a minute, but I think the right 2 teams went up in the top 2 for me this year. Burnley have done excellent defensively.
Yeah, 100%. 16 goals. I think that's only one more than the Chelsea team in 2004, 2005, which is
Yeah.
crazy to say the very, very least, and especially in a 46 game season. More like worry for Burnley really next season is obviously the rumours about James Trafford. It looks like he's potentially going to go to Newcastle, so it's sort of who Burnley can sort of bring in to replace Trafford. I think Josh Brownhill, I believe, is out of contract. I don't know if he's going to be signing on another deal or not. But I agree with Michael. I think that the best 2 went up for me. Of the Burnley with the very good defensive record, and obviously Leeds as well. I think I think many people had Leeds, Burnley. I think that maybe many people had them 1, 2. Don't know what order you would have probably had them in, but for me it was always Leeds and Burnley 1 and 2 for me. And congratulations obviously to Leeds United on the title. I think it's fantastic. It was fantastic to see you smiling yesterday, Carl, like a Cheshire cat. What's that say?
There's our lyrics today.
We're gonna stay with you forever, at least until the world stops going round. Fair play.
Do you know what? I played the music to "Love Will Tear Us Apart" again. I played that to Carl before we started because I thought now he probably won't be bothering about hearing it because obviously
Hey,
they didn't follow.
we the last few games we sung that song after we were home games. And do you know
Fair
what?
play.
For the
That's quite
first
clever.
after the opposition has been mocking us for so many years with that song, we thought, do you know what? We got our own back at there where we just actually sung it back and we actually enjoyed
Generally,
it. We embraced it a lot more this season than we did last season.
absolutely. I mean, to be fair, if you're going to group Leeds and Burnley together, right? If you look at Burnley's defensive record's been absolutely freakish. It's remarkable. I'm sure they kept something like 29 clean sheets, 29,
Yeah.
30 clean sheets this season. So that's one for you. And another quick thing for Burnley as well. They've not conceded more than 1 goal in a single league game this season. That's another thing
Yeah,
as well.
that's very
That's
good.
even more remarkable. So really, then that means, well, actually, if that's right, then that's 30 clean sheets they've kept because they've only conceded 1 goal every time they've conceded then that's 16 games they've conceded 1 goal. So that means 30 clean sheets this season, if my maths is right. So that's staggeringly good.
Yeah.
But also we've got to give Leeds a shout out here as well. I know Carl won't mind hearing this, but Leeds have been comfortably the second best defensive team in the league, and really a lot. I'm sure Carl will agree with this. A lot of the goals that have been conceded have been attributed to Meslier mistakes. So it's not really a testament to their defence not being as good as Burnley's, because Leeds have been great at limiting the opposition and restricting their chances. But at the same time, you've got to remember that Leeds have comfortably scored the most goals in the league. They're like, if you believe in being XG hipsters and all that, then they've been the highest amongst XG tables. They've conceded the second lowest goals in the league. And you look at it, and although Burnley obviously haven't scored, I think they've scored something like 27 less goals than Leeds, if my maths is correct. Sorry, 26 less goals than Leeds. But both of them have been the best in the league at different aspects, where Leeds, for me, have been the best at controlling games and pressing the opposition while still being good defensively. But Burnley have obviously been outstanding defensively. And I think at the end of the day, you've got to praise both of them for it, because both of them have been basically unstoppable force and movable object this season. Really, is probably the way I would describe both of them, and both of them again more than deserved winners. It'll be interesting to see what both happen with both in the summer and the Premier League next season. So I'm going to be keen. So I'm going to keep a keen eye on that. But yeah, I think for both of them to get to 100 points, what can you say? Like hasn't been said. That's phenomenal from the pair of them, and from Leeds particularly. Bear in mind when they lost Archie Gray, they lost Greg Kamara, they lost Sensensio Somerville, and they lost Jorginho Ruta last season, and then finished on more points than they did last season, which I imagine if you said that to Carl at the start of the season, he might have thought you were smoking some illegal substance.
Hey, smoking some weed there.
Yeah. What's the
No,
song "Smoke Weed Every Day"?
Yeah.
nah. Fair play to Leeds, and obviously Carl, you'll be absolutely delighted to obviously the emotion of us a last minute winner at Plymouth yesterday,
Yeah.
um, and just seeing you yesterday as well, just seeing you have the you were almost beaming. You were very happy yesterday to see to see me, and look, I think it's great that you guys are back up. And I'll be interested to see what you guys do. But I think we obviously had a chat yesterday. You think the goalkeeping position needs to be strengthened. I absolutely agree. I think Melie, for me, we've seen him in the Premier League. He can be very rash. We've seen him in the Championship this season. He's been very rash. Um, I think the only sort of question mark I would have is whether Junior Firpo signs on, because I think Junior Firpo has been undoubtedly probably the left back of the season
Yeah.
in the Championship
Yeah.
by a long way. So, and obviously, Burnley as well. You've got Daniel Farker. You've obviously got Scott Parker there. It'll be interesting to see how they adapt the Premier League, because I think they've kind of got a reputation of both of them haven't had very good times of it in the Premier League. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do with bigger clubs. Really, although having said that, Parker was at Fulham and he was at Bournemouth, so I don't Burnley bigger than Fulham and Bournemouth. I'm not so sure, to say the very least. But no, Leeds. Look, Daniel Farker deserves a bit of redemption, I think. And as I said, you know, bring on the Premier League fixtures, where I'm hoping that Carl will be absolutely 100% wrong. That it'll be Liverpool Leeds again, but you'll probably be hoping that it's Leeds Liverpool at Elland Road to begin the season rather than
I
That'll be
Anfield.
a
would.
cracking fixture to start the Prem with.
Yeah.
Must admit.
Yeah, it would be cracking fixture to start if we play you guys at the first game of the season. It would. It's for me. Listen, I this is probably the last season, 2 seasons. It's been an emotional roller coaster. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think, last season we had the most points despite outside the top two. I did not get promoted. It was such tough to take with everything, and especially the way our season just faltered there because the last season at the summer We just didn't know who was going to be there. Farker was unsure who was going to be there, but players wanted to go. It was just it was tough for taking. He settled things slowly in the season, and then the capitulation last season just cost us completely. And from what I'd said, it was a team of individuals when you have the brilliance of Rutter, Gray, and Somerville. I think that was very much was. It wasn't a team collectively, it was a team of individuals. And I think he knew that he had to get a vote of confidence from the Leeds board last summer for him to have another go, to get to try to push that, to push again. And I think he had more say in this in the last summer window of the players that he needed, especially the players that's coming like Mano Solomon, getting Joe Ronan back on the permit deal was vital. Yes, getting Ayo Tanaka was a very one of the best deals I've seen in the championship season. He's been tremendous. Joe Raphael coming to cover as well. And like I said, we knew we had to let some those three players go. But I think this was a team in collectivism, as well as Jaden Bogle joining for £5 million from Sheffield United, which I did not expect that fee. The fee we got for him is incredible. I just think despite the slow start we had, but we still, but the squad after the Sheffield Wednesday win at the start of the first few games of the season, I think we could see the Farker ball was slowly start to roll in a bit, and then alongside, yes, we had some good wins, winning a huge against Cardiff City at home. Same with Coventry City as well. And I think the problem we was questioning with what happened with Melier, with his errors. The one particularly against Swansea was for have we blown it? Have we blown this chance again? And Farker, doesn't change as much, but I think he realized he had to do something, and he took the gamble to bring in Carl Dowler in, and Dowler's only conceded like 2 or 3 goals since he started the last 7 6 games. That has been the huge difference, of that communication needed. And look at some of the players who were injured most at the end of last season. At least they had the injuries at the start of this season rather than end. I think that was a better benefit thing for us. I think we had the difference to get where losing one game at home to Burnley is a familiar. We lost one game, and that was against Burnley, and it amazed me how much we kept with our home record was so good despite Burnley staying unbeaten all season. That's tremendous. But going to games, going to Sheffield United away from home to beat them at their own ground, I think that was a difference maker. The getting a draw against Luton was huge because that was the turning point. If we lost that game to Luton, I don't think Sheffield United Burnley would have lost Sheffield United would have lost those games, a week of games. I think that's been the difference. To getting that draw at Luton was the best thing as all because that draw helped us get us promoted. And when you have players like Joe Peru last season, who was criticised for not scoring much goals last season, he's now becoming the golden boot of 19 goals. He had to get he had a point to prove as well. Nonto we thought coming in and look, we've got a lot to try to improve the squad. The goalkeeper is the main factor. We'll need a number 10 and we'll need another striker. They're going to be the biggest ones that we need to sort out. But I think the squad is not going to be broken apart like it was last season. I think there will be 1 or 2 goings, but I think we still keep the core of that squad that we have. I think Darlow is a good solid backup keeper, which he got that experience in Premier League. I think this is the right time. I think Melier will go for the fee that we might get half the fee that we expected, but I think he's done. I think Farker deserves a chance. See how it goes the first 2 months in the Premier League and see where we are. I know his record at Norwich was not good, but his first promotion, like Mike said early on, was unexpected. His second promotion, when he got back, because of Brendan going to Aston Villa, he had money, but I think he didn't have the say on the signings completely. Where he's in charge of that leads when he's speaking with the sporting director, and he has more better resources than he did at Norwich. So I think he deserves a chance. And like I said, at least our chairman's come out is going to back him, and that's good for now. And that's all we need to do. We see how it goes to some of the transfer window. And then if things don't improve by September, October, we will make that change. We will do that. At least we'll do that. But at least we've learned from my mistakes from 2 seasons ago. When we had it under Jesse March, and then going through Harry Gracia and then Big Sam. We think we've kind of less, but I still be cautious. We've got to put things right and do things right properly. But like I said, it's not going to be easy staying up next season, but we're going to give it a go, and that's the main important thing.
So safe to say you would take 17th right now.
I would take 17th right now. Yeah. And listen, we do things late. We did things late yesterday to win the title. Same thing we did at Brentford when we were relegated Burnley. That I know, sorry, Dan. I try to keep a straight face there, but I know you were upset. We picked you again. So
You can both be friends now. You've finished in the top 2 with 100 points each. You got
yeah,
200 points between
he
you.
wanted the
So,
title so bad because of the record they've done, because of
well,
the middle record. You can't blame him for that.
I mean, technically now technically, I suppose. Um, I suppose if say you had dropped points, then Dan could have gone on and go, "Thank you, James Trafford, for the 2 penalty saves against Sunderland," because then it meant it would have ended up helping them win the league. But yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm fast. Like I said, for Leeds in particular, I'm fascinated to see how the sporting director and Daniel Farker and everyone do at the club. And I agree with Simon, by the way, quickly. Yeah, when you look at Burnley's achievement defensively, it's been absolutely outstanding. I think personally for me, like I've said, I think if you look at the managerial candidates, I think Scott Parker deserves to be up there. I suppose you've got to put Daniel Farker in there because of how they've got to 100 points and have been, if you look at all of the stats, all of the data,
The
everything
last
else is
two
the same.
seasons, 193 points.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, I mean, and to be fair, like you've said, when you look at the players you lost at the start of the season, you've got Tanaka coming in, who's been one of the best midfielders in the league this season. You've got Bogle, who I think has been one of the bargains of the season. In that regard, Daniel James has really stepped up. When you're looking at, I think it's Sensio Somerville leaving, it's really remarkable how you seem to be really balanced a more balanced team rather than a good team with some outstanding individuals, but you've got a really, really good team now. And the best
Yeah.
thing about it is that you've been able to respond from the disappointment last year, which isn't easy to do because there's a hangover from losing a playoff final. But, rode on again, getting him permanently. That was a massive bit of business. So, you look at all of these big factors, they've played a difference into why Leeds went up. And Burnley, with how good Trafford's been, with how Estefe and Egan Riley have been, it just goes to show how these two have got pretty much most of the decisions right, and that even through tough moments, and I did say this to Carl, and I think he did agree, but even when Leeds were having their tough spell, I did say Leeds will still make automatics. I still didn't think that Leeds will drop enough points to do it because I just felt like I didn't see Sheffield United losing 3 on the spin, and obviously that probably did help things quite a bit. But end of the day, like I've said, and as Doug agreed, I think the 2 best teams went up in the automatics. They're both in the Prem, and obviously from a selfish point of view, I hope we're the 3rd team, but that we'll find out in a few weeks whether that is or not. But as far as the automatics are concerned, yeah, you can't begrudge the job that either Daniel Farker or Scott Parker have done across the season.
Yeah, absolutely as well. So that leads us to bring us to the final standings of the championship table. Let's look at here. Leeds and Burnley finish up as the top 2. Leeds become champions. Congratulations to Coventry Bristol to make up the last 2 places in the playoff. Blackburn Mirror should be proud of themselves after missing out despite finishing 7th, 8th. Really tough for Middlesbrough finishing 10th. They've dropped a few points compared to last season. And also for Sheffield Wednesday, they make up the top half of the table for the first time in quite a long time, actually, under their circumstances as well. Go to the bottom of the table, as I say, commiserations to Cardiff and Plymouth, and unfortunately Luton Town as well. They're gone down to League One. Hull and Preston Derby are still to survive, and what a good season for both Portsmouth and Oxford United to finish themselves in the mid-table in 16th and 17th place as well.
Can I just quickly
So,
say before you continue, by because we did.
oops, sorry, Michael. I didn't mean
I
to
was
do
going to
you. I was
say,
trying to
is that
I was
against mentioning Plymouth? No, to be fair, one thing on Plymouth very quickly, although obviously relegation was expected, I think if they keep Mulich, then I think they've got a good chance of bouncing back, particularly depending on what business they do, because they obviously appointed, well, Shrek. To be honest, I can't get away from the fact that people say Wayne Rooney looks like Shrek, which is
Yeah.
quite amusing. But if they hadn't appointed Rooney at the start of the season, if they had Mulic at the start, Plymouth probably wouldn't have got relegated. And I'm very keen to see how, if they keep hold of him, I think they've got whereas with Cardiff, like Nathan, for example, doesn't see much hope at the minute, whereas Luton could arguably be in free fall. I think right now, my money probably will be on Plymouth the most out of the three, depending on their transfer business. And if particularly Mulic stays, but with him, you've got to mention the fact that I think since he's come in, I think Plymouth, certainly home form wise, but I think overall might have been like top half form since he came in. So to give them a chance going in, to giving them a 1% chance, even though mathematically it wasn't going to happen in the last day, that's something for them. So yeah, I'm keen to see what happens with Plymouth over the summer. But yeah, and obviously for Carlisle, as I imagine, and especially if you're a Leeds fan in that away end, that must have been probably one of the best experiences you'll ever have, seeing a 96th minute winner.
It was a 92nd, 93rd winner.
Yeah, that's mental. So yeah, I'm sure they'll be getting merry. The ones who haven't left Plymouth yet will be getting absolutely mortal on Bank Holiday, coupled with winning the league.
Yeah, very much so. But there is a parade tomorrow, so I have to get back tonight. It'll
I was
be a
going to
long
say,
drive back to Leeds tomorrow.
well, why not? You got to enjoy it, haven't you? So
Yep, you certainly do. Certainly do. We should have a note. We should have Annie coming on shortly. He's just messaged us in the group chat. He'll be on. He'll be like 5 minutes. He should be on
tell you what
shortly.
then, because if is it to do with our individual team of the seasons?
Yes, it
Right,
is.
I've got a question to ask both of you actually to kill time if you want.
Go on.
In the championship, out of interest, who do you think's been the biggest underachievers and overachievers this season? For whatever reason you want to start with.
I think underachievers has got to be Luton.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's definitely Luton because that team, you know,
That
yeah,
squad, a parachute payment team as well.
yeah,
You know, yeah.
I'd probably say I think Luton is probably probably the obvious one, but for me, I think it's Cardiff City.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone expected them to be relegated. But if what Nathan says about the wage bill being the eighth highest in the championship and they've gone down, that is really really concerning for sure.
yeah. I agree.
Oh, absolutely. I think because me and my friends were having the discussion today about the biggest over and underachievers. Now, I think if you're looking at overachievers, Michael's mentioned Bristol City. I think there's a good shout for it.
That's a good shout. I
Yeah,
would. I. Do you know what? I would have to say Blackburn has been probably the overachievers in my opinion because we did not expect them, especially after John Eustace left and Ishmael coming in. There was questions about the ownership as what was going on because they got a court case back in India. I think they have been the overachievers in my opinion. I would have said Millwall as well, but I think Blackburn, with them losing Sammy Smollett, there was a question of could it actually be safe, and they've overachieved that completely.
Is it wrong to say Oxford overachieved?
No,
no, I don't think it is because
I'd
I
even
think
say maybe Portsmouth as well.
yeah,
yeah,
I think you could make an argument for all three promoted clubs in some senses.
yeah, you
I
could.
think I think you've got to probably give it to Bristol City for Liam Manning. I think a few people would probably mention us, and I think not in terms of finishing fourth because I've always said last summer that I think a lot of people with Sunderland underestimated significantly how good our squad was. It was just that Michael Beale was appointed, and that really derailed last season. And I think that was the biggest reason. See, Doug's face says it all there. That's why we finished 16th, not because the. That's why for me we finished 16th, not because the team was 16th level in the league. Whereas for me, so I think although the Breeze has still done well, though, mind I will say, to be on the amount of points we have been, and to be competing for the automatics for 2/3 of the season, just running out of steam pretty much, which was expected to happen. But if you're looking at the biggest overachievers, probably Bristol City. I'd say Blackburn's amongst that. I would say Millwall to a degree. I'd say Oxford. I think that's obviously a really really good effort. I think Derby, given the squad they had to some extent as well, it's an interesting one to analyse. But I'll quickly throw in another couple of names for underachievers. I think Middlesbrough's one of them. I think Middlesbrough.
Norwich for me.
Norwich as well. There's
Yeah.
another one. Norwich is a weird one because from what I hear from Norwich, because I watched the Talk Norwich City podcast, which is a great show by the way. I'd recommend you to listen to it if you don't. But they've said that they're kind of in year one of a process, like what Sunderland are doing in terms of prioritising youth, but going through a process and a model, so to speak. But at the same time, you'd expect better than 13th. I'd say West Brom to some extent, although I do believe the Carlos Corberán leaving is probably what not derailed them, but cost them within the playoffs. But yeah, I don't know if you agree with any of those choices. So obviously Doug said Norwich. I'd say Borough, West Brom mixed to that as well, probably in terms of
Yeah.
underachievers.
I know. I agree. I do agree with it. I agree with it, some parts of that. The teams that you mentioned. Yeah, I think they are pretty much some of the overachievers. I really do agree with that as well.
Yeah.
Actually, so
Right. Are
Are
we going to?
Watford underachievers?
I'd
yeah, you could say that. Yeah,
possibly. I think they're probably finished about where more. I think probably considering a lot of people thought they'd go down at the start of the season. I think they've done reasonably well, but maybe if they have underachieved, then we'll see Tom Cleverley being sacked in the next couple of days probably. And then he's lasted the whole season. Then he then 2 days afterwards. But yeah, I would say if you had to name one team for each, I would say if you had to name one team for each, I'd say probably Bristol City for overachievers, and I think Annie would probably agree with that to an extent. And I would say that Luton definitely the biggest underachievers, but Cardiff with a very very close runners up for that as well. And yeah, Simon, no, I agree. Sunderland being in the top three till New Year, yeah, I think we've done well to be in that position. I don't think it's. I think our squad is a playoff level squad at least. Well, maybe not at least because we're not top two, but like we're definitely a playoff level squad for me, given that we were mismanaged last year, but we've still done well. But I'm sure we're going to have someone else who's going to be pretty buzzing after yesterday's events in the Championship final day.
yeah, we will do. We will do. It's interesting to have his opinion on it and
Here he
say
is.
even Annie, welcome. You've made it just about.
Yeah, somehow. I was like trying to get back in time, and we managed it.
You managed it. What was the emotions like yesterday for you at Ashton Gate yesterday?
Oh mate,
Annie's
I don't
vlog's
know if any,
fantastic, by the way, just to throw that in there if you haven't watched it.
I don't know. Yeah, if you haven't watched it, like I didn't show much of it at the time. Just when I found out the Blackburn result, like this feeling. Oh yeah, it was unbeatable. It was fantastic. It was probably the best I've felt at Ashton Gate ever. And we didn't even win. It was unbelievable. Hanging on to sixth by a bet by literal thread. I mean, it's crazy when there were three blokes to the right of me I'd never seen in my life. Right, never seen in my life. Jumping on top of them, with their jumping on. It was craziness. It was unbelievable. But job's not finished. And we've still got two mammoth games in arguably two of the biggest games in this club's history, especially in recent years. So it's an opportunity, and hopefully one that we'll take.
Ashton Gate will be bouncing on Thursday.
It will be.
As you said, it should be, yes, but it will
Michael,
be. I can imagine that.
today.
Yeah, I can imagine that is going to be one of the best atmospheres Ashton Gate has ever seen. I think that's going to, and I've said before, well, you won't have seen this because I said to the other two, I fancy us to win the first leg. Over the whole tie is a different question. Personally, I'm still believe Sheffield United will probably get through. Although obviously for your sake, I hope I'm wrong. But I just think on Thursday, if you take a lead to Bramall Lane, then I think there's every chance. And you actually played well in the two games against them in the league this season, like really well. So there's nothing for you to fear, I don't think.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying after the game, and it was like, oh, we're playing Sheffield United. Whilst there was like a building up to the week of, we'll win, we'll play Sunderland. That was the kind of feeling, and then drop to 6, and then you're going, right, Sheffield United. That's a completely different ballpark. Look, we've got nothing to fear. We're here on merit. We're statistically one of the worst ever sixth place sides. Who cares? We're sixth. Who cares? Literally, who cares? And doesn't matter. It's just about just about finding a way. Look, I said for the longest time in the build up to the playoffs, we've got to win the home leg, no matter who we're playing. Whether that was at that point, Leeds, Burnley, Sheffield United, Sunderland, whoever, we've got to win the home leg if we've got a chance of getting through. God Almighty, I'm hoping we win that home leg, because otherwise it's going to be a slog up at Bramall Lane. Look, we played really well at Bramall Lane, not that long ago. So there's a chance, but I think the playoffs that day, Sheffield United did rest quite a few key players. Hamer was on the bench, Ahmedhodzic was on the bench, but still, I think we've got a chance. But it's going to be it's. You just have to look at the league table. There's 22 points between the two teams, 24 if you add on the 2 points deficit. So it's going to be really difficult. But look, if you're not going to be believing, and especially for a club like us, we've not been in this situation a hell of a lot of times. Not a lot of championship clubs have had, sustained success, like winning titles, winning cups. Just about, especially for us, we've been mid-table, we've been hapless, we've been average, we've been mediocre. We've had the mick taken out of us for being part of the furniture in the championship. Who cares if we've finished sixth by, scraping our way through? And obviously Preston had to nearly derail our season. Of course, it was Preston. But look, we've got an opportunity, and the fact that in the video I put out earlier today, I said we've got a chance of going to the Premier League. It's like, I didn't expect to be saying that at the start of the year. So
no, absolutely not.
It's an opportunity for sure.
Absolutely. Doug, thank you very much for joining us. I know you had to go off in, mate, so I appreciate that as well. Listen, Doug, I didn't expect Doug to come join us today, Addy, because you were not around, but he unexpectedly joined us, and he's been a good he's been a good co-host. This is the first time he's been in the championship with you properly with us, so it actually,
like you said, he saves when you've won the league. So what a guy.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, indeed.
What he said about being sixth place, like it reminds me very similarly to how I felt when Sunderland got in the playoffs 2 years ago. When you look at it, how we weren't expected to get in there. Ironically, against Preston, we played on the final day. Funnily enough,
yeah.
As I'm sure you both will remember it. And then obviously I think we were seventh, 1 point, was it 2 points, I think, behind Millwall, but Blackburn beat Millwall and we got in on the final day. Like that was one of the best days of my life. And for a club of our size, it's really not that good, but in the context of where we'd been and just coming up from League One, that was incredible. So, and yeah, we finished, I think Bristol City finished, what was it, 1 point behind the tally we did that season, 68 points you finished
68,
on.
yeah.
Yeah, and we finished on 69, but the stat doesn't say that doesn't count because of the points tally. You're sixth. Like, if you didn't expect to get in there, then bloody well enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's the same call for Leeds winning the league. It's the same for Burnley getting automatic promotion, with Bristol City getting the playoffs. If you can't enjoy these moments, then you might as well go and follow cricket. Sorry to anyone who likes cricket.
I love cricket, right?
I like cricket.
Yeah.
Right, okay, fine then. I'll say you like to go and watch paint dry then.
That's quite. Yeah.
That's better. Yeah, that's more better.
I'm not a cricket fan by any means, but yeah, I've probably made myself like a mug there.
What I will say is, because of, if you notice, the actual sort of points tally for the playoffs it's got like lower. Like last season, I think it was 70, wasn't it?
70 is usually, yeah.
I think Norwich finished 6 on 73.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but the year before, 69, we
year
finished
before,
yeah.
So there is like a notable trend of, I know it's every other year, but there are seasons where it's got lower, and I wonder if that's something to do with how points are distributed at the top, because we know about the parachute payments, we know about everything financial, whatever. Is it a case of, because more teams in the top 2 and the top 3 are getting craziness, 100 points each, right? 2 teams with 100 points. A team misses out on automatic promotion with 90 points, 2 seasons running. It's craziness. So I wonder if that's got something to do with how 6th and 5th and 7th are performing. Like Middlesbrough finished 10th, and we're only 5 points off the playoffs. They've got 63 points, I think they got eventually, which is it's nothing. So yeah, I don't know. Might have something to do with the parachute payments.
It might be the parachute payment teams are able to buy the best championship players, and then it weakens everyone else effectively. But but something that Andy will appreciate, and then he can say it now. Tommy Conway again left to go to Borough. For a better chance at the
Hey,
playoffs.
listen, I'm not saying a word.
Yeah, you don't have to. I'm saying it for you. And then Bristol City end up getting in the playoffs. So maybe Tommy Conway was the problem. Maybe he needed to leave in order for it to happen.
If Tommy Conway had stayed, Naki Wells would never have been this good. Is all I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually. Yeah, I think Huddersfield didn't see the best out of him, actually. So
who knows? Yeah, but
Bloody
yeah.
distraught
Well,
for Naki Wells.
see if he makes any of our team of the seasons.
well, yes, we are coming towards the
Oh, have
end.
you not done it yet?
I have.
No, we
No, we haven't done it yet. We haven't revealed it.
Oh,
So.
right.
About 5 minutes ago, when Carl got told by you that you were coming on, I think
Okay.
we basically tried to kill time until you came on. So,
Whilst I was waiting in the background for Carl to let me in, this I just come up with it because I had no.
Good.
I
Good.
thought
do you know
I
what?
was
I've
going
been
to be
thinking
on.
about this all week, actually, and there's a couple of players that I wanted to mention in there, but because I didn't want to use more than two from a club, like Carl's done, it was quite limited who I could pick. But yeah, so I think it's the best I can come up with what I can think of.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna get up the what the EFL have decided. I'm gonna get this with the team of the season, and I have to say, I disagree with some of the selections, which I'm not gonna lie. I'll just get up for the second now because I'm gonna have to type it in. Right. So as I get up the screen now, see who made up the team of the season lineup. So let's just share the screen here and look at the championship. So, especially the championship, this is what they chose at the EFL Awards. So, Jay Trafford's in goal, along with Jaden Bogle, CJ Egan Riley, Steve in the back ball with Burrows. Then the midfield three of Bellingham, Hamer, and Tanaka. Then the front, I was questioning a bit, especially one in the middle with Josh Sargent, Dan James, and Carlos and Bill Boyce as FI. But I do question one or two things, and I thought it just didn't make any sense of the selection they decided to choose. So we both figured so all of us said, let's just do our own and see what we do. And it was a good policy from Reese last week, and I give him credit from the Weekly Steel J himself, Reese himself. He said, do a selection, but you're looking to choose two players from each of the team. So which we did do that. Only two players from from each team, which we have done, and it took a lot of. It did take a lot to.
Have we chosen a manager? Or are we meant to?
I can think we can leave the manager one for the side being because it's debatable with that one. Okay. I think the team's just 11.
You could do the manager thing at the end. We could all maybe name our own and then maybe
come to
consensus.
Yeah.
No, here's a new one. Does the manager count as one of the two from each team?
No.
Okay, all right, fine.
I was going to say no. That's a completely different thing.
That's different.
Okay.
So I've got mine here. I'm going to start with his obvious choice, James Trafford.
Are we going through each position and then saying our own individual player for the position?
Yeah.
We all mentioned goalkeeper, then right back, then
back. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So I've gone for James Trafford for Burnley. I think that's the obvious choice.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gone with Trafford. Yeah.
Okay.
Funnily enough, actually, I've gone with Michael Cooper, and the only reason I've gone with him is because there's two other Burnley players I want to put in this team. But I will say Michael Cooper's had a very good season. He has single-handedly often saved Sheffield United points this season whenever I've watched them.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fair. That's fair. Right back. I really wanted to put Bogle in, but I thought I was going to leave. I wanted to leave one of the two spaces, but I have put your boy Michael Trey Hume. From Sunday. I think he's had a very good season at right back.
Okay. I'll get on to that in a bit because I've kind of cheated a little bit here. But right back, I have gone Jaden Bogle. I think, again, we said before, I think the bargain of replacing Archie Gray, £5 million from Sheffield United, who ended up being a promotion rival for most of the season. And I think he's been I think his numbers suggest he's been one of the best right backs in the entire division. Question marks on whether he can obviously do it in the Prem, but you don't know until you've got to that point. As for this season, he's really impressed me when I've watched him for Leeds.
I've gone with Trey Hume. I think it was between him and Bogle, so I know.
Yeah.
And there is one position where I was like, that's a little bit scarce.
Well,
so I did.
I'll tell you what. Then do left back next because I want to segue into this. I've actually put Trey Hume left back.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because he can play both places.
Because I had debated because Harrison Burrows got in the official team of the season.
Yeah,
didn't he? But I think that Trey Hume's numbers have been very identical to Burrow's, and I think Trey Hume, bear in mind, half the time has had to play in a place that's not his natural position, but he can play there. So because I was struggling to think, I thought, well, Trey Hume could play there. And I agree with you both. I think he has had a very good season and has been one of our best players this season. And he's the only one who could put a decent bloody cross in. But
Yeah.
either way, I like Trey Hume a lot. And I remember, just a reminder, we got him for 200k from Linfield in Ireland.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah. So left back, it was obvious. I put Junior Fairport in. Yeah, I think how he did the season. It was the only thing I could think of who's the other left back. I thought Burrows. Yeah, he's joined from Peterborough. Fairport, especially after people criticised him in the past in the Premier League of was he good enough? And especially this season he's come to fruition when he's been bombarded going up, attacking. So
I will point out I didn't include Fairport because I've already got another position for Leeds already.
Exactly. Yeah.
It makes it interesting.
Me and Carl are going to have the exact same 11. I've put Fairport at right left back as well. Same reasons, nothing much to add.
Yeah.
Totally fair enough.
Okay, so the centre back pairing I've got. Well, I'll give one of them. It's a prize because if he did get injured, I don't want to see what he did for you in the playoff run. It's Luke McNally. I think despite his injuries, he's been one of the players I kind of like. Actually, I wanted to go for one of the Burnley players, but it would be too obvious. I think Luke McNally is probably been one of the players I've really enjoyed the season in that centre back position.
I had considered using him. Yeah. Go on, Annie. What's yours?
Well, my right centre back is actually Japhet Tanganga, who I think has had an unbelievable season at Millwall, and I think Millwall will be very lucky to have him next season.
Okay, I'll say my two, then you can segue on to your two. My two is the obvious ones, Esteve and Egan Riley. I just don't think you can... And this killed me, the two players rule things. I really wanted to... Spoiler alert ahead, I wanted to put Josh Brownhill in the midfield, but because I'm using the two centre-backs for Burnley, I can't do that. So, but yeah, I would say that you've got to look at their record and say that 16 goals conceded, 30 clean sheets this season, been so rock solid. James Trafford's had a bit to do with it, but I think he's been relied upon a bit less. Not saying he hasn't played a part, because he definitely has. Obvious one, 2 penalty saves against Sunderland. The amount of key saves, the one he made at Watford a couple of weeks ago. But I would say that Esteve and Egan Riley have been by far the two centre backs in the league that have obviously, the defensive record speaks for itself. I will shout out though, I did want to, and what you both might have included him, I wanted to put Joe Rodon in here. But again, for the same reasons, I couldn't include him because I've got another position. I've already used Bogle and I've got another position for Leeds. But yeah, for me, it's Egan Riley and Esteve at centre backs.
Yeah, so in the other centre back position, I have to, and he's had a really good season. And Jimmy Dunn at QPR, he's been one of their best players. I think Jimmy Dunn, really has delivered, because I know, this past season, what's going to QPR, did a bit of a slow start, but he's come strong, and I like what Jimmy Dunn is with his positioning of how he knows it when he makes the key tackles, and he did do quite well yesterday in your game, Michael. He did some good key tackles, his 6 tackles yesterday, so he's had a really good season. I like Jimmy Dunn. I think he's going to be one of the players you're going to be watching if QPR don't be scared, won't let him sell him.
I think he's out of contract.
He's out of contract this summer.
Exactly.
I will say this, mind, if we don't get promoted, I would be looking at him for us. But yeah, I think that's a good shout. Jimmy Dunn's had a really good season.
Yeah, so we've got the goalkeepers in our back 4. I've chosen the 3.
I was going to say, Annie's got to say his other centre back.
Annie as well. Sorry, Annie.
So yeah, Tanganga was my right centre back. I've put Esteve as my left centre back. I could have gone him, Egan Riley, in a normal Championship season. Where Leeds have also a really good defensive record. Isn't it the second best of all time?
Yeah,
it's the second best in the league.
No, of all time.
Of all time, actually.
Yeah.
And you got to remember as well that a number of the goals they conceded were down to Melier mistakes as well.
Yeah, fair.
Sorry, Carl.
No, it's fair point. Fair point.
So, look, in a normal Championship season where two teams aren't freakishly good defensively, the Swansea centre-backs are considered, Darling and Cabango. They've had really good seasons personally. Dunn as well, Jake Cooper, McNally, Shaw for half a season. But yeah, I think Maxim Esteve has just been a class above, and he should not be playing in the Championship.
No, I do 100% agree. 100% agree. Right, we've gone. We've gone with our 3-man midfield. I don't know what you guys gone for yet, but I've gone for a 3-man midfield. I'll
Yeah,
start
Yeah, I've done the
first.
same.
Yeah, left centre midfield. I have to put to Josh Brownhill. I think that was one of the two. That's why I thought I was very careful of what I was going to decide. I think Josh Brownhill, I mentioned, especially he's led that he's Captain Marvel for that team as well now, and I think that was important. With his goals that really helped him. To that ability to get automatic promotion. With 18 goals this season, it's tremendous for a centre midfielder.
I really, really, and it kills me with this rule that I can't include him because obviously he got what's his 6 assists, but got 18 goals this season. That's phenomenal for a midfielder. And there's been question marks about Brownhill in the bigger games turning up, but you can't deny the fact that across the whole season he's been a key cog in Burnley's machine to be able to
Yeah.
dictate games, to start to dominate games when they're not just relying on the defence. I really wanted to include him, but I've used up my 2 Burnley slots. So one of the ones I would put in there is Gustavo Hamer. Now, I know there was a lot of debate about how he won Player of the Year, and I think there are players that deserve to win it ahead of him. But I think when I've watched Sheffield United and when you look at him, he's been comfortably their best player for me. Well, maybe comfortably is harsh, but he's been their best player. He's been the one that makes them tick. He's the one that drives them forward. He scores goals from set pieces. He's a constant menace in the midfield, and I really rate Gustavo Hamer. I think he's easily one of the best midfielders in the league.
Interesting. Annie?
As one of my midfielders, I've put Jack Rodoni in there as my
Ooh.
left-sided midfielder. Is it 9 goals and 12 assists, which is just brilliant, like really, really good. So he's when a fan base tries to like overhype a player and goes, "Oh, he's the best thing since sliced bread," and I was like, not sure about that. He was a bit poor. He was a bit, bit flat to deceive Huddersfield, but his numbers are undeniable, really. So he's had a really good season, and I'll happily hold my hands up and go, yeah, he's a really good player.
I have put him in my centre midfield. That's my next pet pick. I have picked Rodri as well too. I just think that not just what happened yesterday, but during the course of the season, he's been a key part of that revival for commentary on the Frank Lampard. He's been tremendous this season. I really like, especially for a player at his caliber. I'm surprised that not one or two small Premier League clubs looking at him to just, because he can play. He can play.
Well, I was going to say, make it a hat-trick for Rodoni, because I'll put him in my team as well. I think Jack Rodoni has been, and this is one of the reasons I'm really worried about coming up against him in the playoffs, but Jack Rodoni is a really, really classy midfielder. And you remember, like Andy said, when you look at the underwhelming season Huddersfield had, and obviously he was part of that last season when they got relegated, Coventry saw something in him. And you've got to credit Mark Robbins for that, by the way, because I bet that was a Mark Robbins
signing.
Mark Robbins
Yeah,
was the one who signed him when he was at Coventry. Oh, Mark Robbins was at Coventry when they signed him. So whoever scouted Rodoni, really, really good pickup and really good buy. Like you said, what was it, like over 20 goal contributions this season, and really he's stepped up. He obviously scored twice yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I think he's one of the best midfielders of the division. Maybe not the best, obviously, and obviously there's different levels to it, like whether he's a number 10 or whatever it is. But he's been one of the standouts of the season for sure. So he's in my team as well.
I remember him on the last day of last season when Huddersfield were playing Ipswich, and he got hooked after half an hour. Not because there was a red card or anything, he just got hooked after half an hour. And I was like, right, this guy's he doesn't look cut out for the Championship. So yeah, great career revival. Cost a bit of money for Coventry, but
safe to say he's been paid back, mind. He's delivered for them.
And imagine having Frank Lampard as your midfield sort of coach, arriving in from deep to score goals from the edge of the box. Yeah, that reminds me of someone actually. So yeah, he's had a great season.
I agree with Brian, by the way. Sorry, quickly. Yeah, Frank Lampard's got him on another level since he's come in with Rodoni. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. It was hard to pick up the last midfield because I was trying to make sure. I don't know if I made the right pick, but I'll say Vinny Souza from Sheffield United.
It's one that they certainly rate, to be fair. They see him as a key midfielder, but my last pick, and okay, this probably is a Sunderland thing here, but I am putting Joe Bellingham in this. I don't frankly get the outrage from a lot of fans that he is in this because in the official one, I can understand him over someone like what was the midfielder? I think him over Brownhill I could get. To be fair, I can understand why people be annoyed at Brownhill in there, but let's not kid ourselves. I am sick of hearing he's only in there because of his last surname. No. He's underrated because of his surname. He
Yeah.
does not have to be anywhere near the level of his brother. He has been easily one of our best players this season. He has come along leaps and bounds in his second full season in men's football. He has often dominated midfields that have had a more senior experience than he has, and he is destined for bigger and better things in the Championship. And our only hope of keeping hold of him is if we get promoted to the playoffs. So for me, Joe Bellingham, I think personally, hey, if I'm the only one who's picked him, I will die on this hill happily. But I think that Joe Bellingham has easily been deserving of being in team of the season, and he's my third midfielder.
He is also my second midfielder in there.
Oh, thank God for that. Okay.
Him, yeah. It might be a bit too attacking, but yeah, him and Radoni.
Yeah, well, that's why we're not managers, so it's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, he's my second midfielder, and my third one is, I don't care what anyone says. I'm putting Jason Knight in there. Who cares?
No, that's fair. Do you know what? He's really been good this season. He's been one of outside the top 3 teams. He's actually been one of the really good players this season for your team.
Captain bloke does not stop running. He's played every single minute of every single game this season. I think him and Zach Viner are the two players for us in there, which is mental considering there are only 10 players I think across the whole EFL who've done it.
Yeah,
yeah. He's not just like an energetic sort of dynamic player. He's grown leaps and bounds in terms of his quality on the ball. The pass for the second goal yesterday was mind-blowingly good. The fact that he sees the run is just craziness. And yeah, he's been a main part of our top six finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we've got to the final 3, the forward position. I'm going to start with the right position winger first. So, do you know what? I was really thinking really hard about this one, but it occurred to me when I thought, do you know what? If that team did have him, they would have gone down. And I looked at it, I thought he's been the joint assist in the championship this season with 14. I have to say, Josh, without having Josh Murphy in that squad, Portsmouth will be down.
Yeah, there's a good shout for that.
I'll get on to. Maybe we'll talk about that later. On my right hand side, I've got Dan James.
Make that same here. I've got him there as well.
Yeah, it's just. But again, class above the Championship, and he's racked up the goals and assists. So, and he's a real threat whenever he's anywhere near the ball. So, yeah, top player. Has had a really good season and has flourished in a really good Leeds side.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I agree. I think that was one of Portsmouth's best buys of getting Josh Murphy, who just left Oxford United, which is surprising.
On a free as well.
And a free as well, yeah. And I think they've done quite well to get his caliber in. After he was the one who scored the goal to get Oxford back after 25 years absence from the second tier. But for him to go on a free and go to a Portsmouth side, I think he came really good towards the end of Portsmouth's survival of staying up. And I think without his assists, I don't think Portsmouth will be where they are right now.
No, I think that it's not a bad shout there. And remember, that was just after Oxford had got promoted, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That he went to Portsmouth, so that obviously could have been considered a sideways step in a lot of ways. But yeah, I would say that obviously Dan James, quickly to echo what Annie said, Dan James, my right mid, I think he's always had the qualities, and he's had to step up to fill in the shoes of Vincenzo Somerville as well. And I think he's done exceptionally well this season. I mean, again, he's got I think he himself has got something like, I think it's at 9 assists, and he's got I've just seen 12 goals, but he plays a massive part in nearly every time I've watched Leeds, and he's been so dynamic. He's got the pace, he's got the trickery, he's a nightmare, and he's probably a player who shouldn't be playing at Championship level. And now next season, unless he goes back to the Championship himself for whatever reason, he won't be. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Dan James.
No, that's fine. So we got our right winger. Let's go with the left, and it was obvious. I have to put Boy aside. He's probably been, and I really wanted to put a Leeds player, but I thought I'd save one position, which I was made.
Yeah, I know where you're going with it.
Yeah, so I put Boy Science in the left position because I think he deserves it. I was not going to put him. I was not going to put Josh Sargent over him. No way, not in that official one.
Yeah, well, again, this is where it comes down to victim of not being able to use more than two players in the same from the same team. Because if it hadn't been able to do that, I probably would have put Solomon there, to be honest. But I probably have put Boris Signs in there, and I did it somewhat reluctantly, not because he's a poor player, but he was stuck on 17 goals, I believe, for goodness knows how long. I think he hadn't. I might be correct in thinking yesterday. I think might have been his first goal since November.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
which because you've obviously had a poor 6 months, I really didn't want to include him in that regard. But I couldn't think of many other players on the left who stood out in that regard.
no.
I had considered now. Annie, correct me if I'm wrong. Where does Scott Twine play for you? Does he play in the 10? Does he play out wide? Is he a versatile player?
Yeah, he's a 10. He's a 10.
Okay, because I was tempted to go Scott Twine to put in there, but I also thought, well,
Michael, I love Scott Twine. He isn't going nowhere near that team.
I'm saying I had debated it, but in the end, but that was partly also I didn't include him for what Andy's just said there. But I also think that Boris Sainz for me is the obvious one. He's got the joint second highest, goal scoring record in the division. Now I think if you remember the first part of the season, he was single-handedly dragging Norwich through a lot of games.
Yeah.
But it just begs the question what's happened within the last 6 months. But yeah, and also remember, he's got a year left on his contract, I believe, at Norwich.
He has. So
I think that Norwich will probably cash in on him this summer. But yes, but you can't argue 18 goals. To be fair,
no, I can't argue with that one as well. Annie,
I really struggled because I couldn't put Jaden Anthony in there. I had Jan James, so I couldn't put Solomon in there. So I was a bit hamstrung, then it hit me. I was like, oh, Josh Murphy exists. Yeah, there you go. He's been brilliant. I considered Tom Fellows as well.
I had looked at him as well.
So did I. Yeah.
But he, similar to Sainz, had a really hot start and then has just sort of flatlined a little bit. He nicely padded his stats yesterday on the final day, got 2 goals and an assist. But I think Murphy deserves it. He's been brilliant, and he's not just a player who, in moments, he'll sort of get a goal or get an assist or put a good ball in the box. He's consistently a threat, and that's so hard to do consistently throughout the game. Be an outlet, especially for a Pompey side who have mainly this season been down near the bottom. So he's been fantastic, and he's been he's just a really good player.
Yeah, no, I think it's really some good choices we made here, gentlemen, with our own team. Let's finally go to the last position, the striker position. For me, it's inevitable. I was going to choose him. Listen, after last season, there was a lot of criticism. He proved it. There would be no Puro, no Partey, and it has to be Joe Peru. And like I said, goals per 90 is 0.55. It's probably it's one of the top four per 90, but 19 goals, as I said, he had to finish on the high, especially when we beat Stoke 6-0. He was up for it, and he's been consistent all season as well.
Yeah, go on, let Annie go next, actually. I'll save mine at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I realised, I was like, oh, no Sheffield United players are in there, and I tried to maybe adjust a bit back, and I was like, maybe can I squeeze, I don't know, Sousa or Hamer in there, and I just couldn't drop whoever it was. So I initially went with Tyrese Campbell, and then I was like, not sure he deserves it. And then I had a look, and then Zian Fleming, no. I couldn't put Joel Pirro in there because I already have 2 Leeds players and Firpo and James. So I thought, you know what, let's go a bit rogue, and I put Colby Bishop in there. It was between him and Mihailo Ivanovic, so I put Colby Bishop in there. He's been instrumental to Pompey's comeback. Like, they were really bad before. Yeah, granted they had tough fixtures, but they were properly in the mire. And he came back. It was like a new lease of life. He's just so crucial to how they play, and he's been fantastic. He's a great hold-up striker. You don't really see many of those these days.
No.
He's a natural finisher as well, and when he gets a chance, more than likely he'll take it. He's a really good player. And the only thing not going for him and Josh Murphy is probably their ages. And if they were 5-6 years younger and producing these type of performances week in, week out, they'd be worth 25-30 million, both of them. So slightly late for Pompey.
Yeah, in today's market they would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of their asset value, it's they maybe a little bit too late in their careers, but Bishop's been fantastic, and honourable mention goes to Ivanovic as well, who's been fantastic for Millwall. Out of the players I could choose, but Tyrese Campbell's also unlucky, I think.
Michael.
Yeah. Okay. Wilson Isidore. No, I'm joking. I probably could have put Isidore in there. If you say
he was considered as well.
Yeah.
I think if it weren't for his last 2.5 months, I probably might have considered putting him in there. For me, this is going to sound obvious, but it's Josh Sargent for me. Now, again, obviously, Joe Peru finished top scorer, and I really wanted to, and again, because of the hamstrung over not having more than 2 from each team, but I looked at it this way. Joe Peru, yes, has the most goals per 90 minutes in the Championship, 163. Josh Sargent's only 4 minutes behind that. Now, bearing in mind he's got 15 goals and he's only played 2/3 of the season, and a number of them were off the bench as well. So he's pretty much got around 2 goals per game. His effect for Norwich is absolutely instrumental, along with Borja Sainz, obviously. And again, like with Sainz, I think Norwich have a battle to keep him this summer. And I think Sargent is, for me, when fit, one of the best strikers of the Championship, hands down, in my opinion. And while it doesn't look impressive because Norwich finished 13th, I think if Josh Sargent leaves, I think Norwich, unless they recruit really well or have a replacement ready to step up in the building, then I think it's going to be a massive summer for them. But I think there was other players like Josh Windass is obviously goal scoring wise had a good record for Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously goals per 90, you can read into that. I think Tommy Conway, when I've watched him, has looked good for Middlesbrough. I know Annie obviously won't want to admit that, but he has looked good for Borough. I didn't realise Ian Fleming got double figures, actually, which is quite weird. I would even maybe go as far as a shout, even though he doesn't start as many games for whatever reason, but ML Reese for Preston, I think he scored double figures for a team that was in free fall, and has been down the bottom all season. But I think for me, Josh Sargent, I really, really rate. And I agree, and I can see why Carl put Joe Peru in there, but again, because I put Jaden Bogle and Dan James on the right-hand side from Leeds, I thought, well, it's obvious I don't really want to just copy the team of the season from the EFL, but I think Sargent for me is deserving to be in there if I couldn't include Joe Peru.
Well, absolutely. No, you made a case on that one. Listen, everyone, we've chosen our own team of the season 11. You guys can do the same if you want to in the chat or even on the comments section after we're done. We've just got some breaking news coming out from Germany that Ralph Hasenhüttl has been sacked by Wolfsburg. Could it be an interest that he comes back to England? Because I know he managed Southampton and under difficult circumstances. Would he be fit enough for a Middlesbrough or one of the other relegated teams?
Imagine he goes to Leicester.
The Southampton job's available, guys.
Yeah, well. Yeah, that would be quite funny, actually.
I think he's probably one of those that thinks a Premier League job. He did all right at Southampton for large proportions of his time.
Yeah.
Before it all went to pot over at Saints, I think he's good enough for a lower end Premier League job. Maybe a newly promoted side. Maybe I don't know, like Wolves or something. If that comes up anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you know what? Time will tell, boys. Time will tell. Gentlemen, thank you very much for it. Andy, thank you for joining us late, and thank you for Doug for joining us during much of the show. I know you guys got to get ready for yourselves for your content, especially for the playoffs. I've said good luck to both of you guys. You're going to need it. And like I said, whoever gets to the final deserves it, who wins as well. But you've been instrumental on this show for this season as well. I appreciate that. And like I said, with and being getting the social life back next season, not having the social life next season, I just said, you maybe see me either just be producing the show. You guys can let you free range for you guys to take over when you guys don't get promoted. But I'm always going to be here regardless, no matter what. It's been a really good season, both up and down the championship. It really has been. But like I said, the players comes as well. This week coming up, it's going to be exciting. Can Sheffield United end the play of hoodoo, or could it be either one of the teams that never been to the Premier League? Bristol City, for example, can they really finally make it to the promised land?
Have you seen Michael's comment?
Yeah, I have. Ooh, it could be. It could be.
I literally think
I think I'd just faint probably. Yeah.
Oh God!
Just famous Bristol City Sunderland final. Oh God! One thing for sure, Annie, if we did both somehow get to the final, we have to make sure we meet up for it. I think.
I can't even think about that possibility, to be honest. Not the meetup, just the
I was going to
final.
say he means meet well. I mean, I wouldn't blame him. To be fair, but yeah, no, that would be fascinating. Yeah, let's just say I'm looking forward to seeing Bristol City Sheffield United on Thursday. I'm looking forward to see what the atmosphere is going to. I know it won't come across as good on the TV, anywhere near as much it will be in the ground, but yeah, and he will look forward to it, and rightly so, because they've deserved to be in there. And yeah, thanks for having us on this season. It looks like it could be. Even if Sunderland, I'm hoping obviously Sunderland do win the playoffs. If we do, I'd probably still want to come on these shows because I like watching the Championship. I like covering it. And yeah, it just means Carl's probably going to be replaced by Ant again next season. So that's going to be great fun.
Oh, it'll be great fun indeed.
Imagine Coventry win the bloody playoffs now, and Ant's going, no, I hate football now. I don't like it.
Carl, yeah. I will say this: if we somehow miraculously find our way to winning the playoffs, I am saying goodbye to the Championship for however long I can. So I'm just going to ignore this league because I have had enough of it.
I've had enough. We've been 12th and 11th and everything every season.
Oh mate, don't get me started. Yeah.
Oh mate, honestly, yeah, it doesn't beat being everyone's big fish in League One and everyone claiming it's a good league when it's turgid.
God.
No, but Carl, thanks for doing these this season. It's been a really good It's been absolutely cracking, a cracking season. It's been a record-breaking season in many ways in the Championship, and obviously for me and Annie, the season goes on a little bit longer. But yeah, Carl, I'm sure put his feet up on the beach, and we shall wait and see.
Well, you could say that for this Championship review, but not yet. I have still got a show to do every Saturday morning on the Saturday show, so that's still going on until the end of the regular season, probably after when we're done with the Premier League season / Champions League final. So I'll still be on doing here on this channel. But like I said, Doug has mentioned, thanks to the news. So I want to get to 100 before the season ends. That's my main goal now, to get to 100 subs by the end of the season, and then we'll do a proper season review across all the leagues. We'll do it in a proper live stream, especially we'll get you guys back on. We'll have Chris and from LITD TV, Doug himself, Reese from the Weekly Steel. We're going to try to get some guests on here during the cup after the season's done all together, because I am not doing any content for the Club World Cup. That is not on my agenda. I can't do you somehow. I know, but yeah, exactly. But I really enjoyed doing this show this season. I really appreciate that. If it's both your teams get to the finals, should we do a playoff final special preview, because that's something we're gonna have to do if both your teams get to the final. I know you can't put the bro with it, but it's just a suggestion. See what happens.
I hope we lose on Thursday now.
I hope Coventry lose on Friday and the following Tuesday.
I hope Sheffield United go down to 8 men and then we win 7-0.
Don't you mean do they just go down to like 7 men or something, and then you just get a 3-0 forfeit both times?
Oh, that would be ideal. No, I think does it not have to be down to 5 men before we?
Oh, I don't know.
5 men. It's supposed to be 5 men. Yeah, it's usually 5 men. If it gets to 5 men, the game's abandoned.
Could you actually imagine from Carl's point of view,
Fantastic.
if Leeds had been the team to finish third and all 3 of us were in the playoffs?
Oh God,
God.
yeah, that would have
That
been
awful.
trauma and torture for all 3 of us.
Because we'd be playing each other. God, Christ.
At least it didn't happen to us. At least it didn't happen to us this time around. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So
To be fair, Carl and Dan have had their stress. Now it's mine and Annie's turn.
yeah. Good luck, boys. You're gonna need it.
The stress. Can't bloody wait.
I only aged 5 years yesterday. Christ.
Hey, listen. When you get past 30, that's when you age a lot more quickly. Okay.
I can actually assure you that Carl is not wrong in what he's saying. I'm 33, so I can very much vouch for that.
Thank you, Michael.
But I'll just say this just to calm Annie's nerves, because I know he will enjoy it.
Sorry, you have to keep going down.
Yeah, keep going all the way down. Yeah, all the way down. Yeah.
Well, I will say
There you
one
go.
thing about that. Who is it? Let me try to list all the.
By the way, can I just say
ex-Bristol
before Annie
players.
says out, I have a lot of respect for Charlie Hayne, who's because I did with Bristol Rovers Sunderland previews with him in League One. He's a sound guy actually. There's a couple of sound Bristol Rovers fans I know, although I know Annie's going to probably want to wash his ears out with bleach or something, if you can even do that after hearing that. But you know,
I will say one final thing on Bristol. Them.
You call them
Bristol
Taylor
City versus
Moore.
Bristol. Them lot.
Taylor Moore, Chris Martin, Jack Hunt, James Wilson, David Horseman, Bristol City legends. Find the common factor in all of them is all I'm going to say. Look up their Wikipedias.
Oh God.
I've got respect for them because they don't have Joey Bloody Barton anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good. Judgment, you've been fantastic, Rory. I appreciate that. And listen, the players is going to kill you both. I'm not going to lie to you. Welcome to my world. So,
hey, as a neutral, you can enjoy it now.
Oh yeah, and my feet are up on my Chase Lounge on Thursday. I'm with my feet up and just seeing the tensions between you guys in the group chat. That's what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks.
And will have gone on loan from Cardiff to Sunderland for the next week.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, he might be joining youth. Yeah. Oh, but yeah.
More than likely, yeah.
Oh, but yeah, gentlemen, always
thanks for having us. It's been a good.
Yeah, thank you. As I said, I'm back on next Saturday to do the Saturday show. Probably at a short time now because it's coming on to the season. So I'll see what I'll do. Might be around 11, 11:15. We're back on next Saturday morning, and that'll be ongoing till the end of the season as well. But like I said, I'm going to put both Annie and Michael's channels in the description after this show is done, and also Doug's channel as well. And like I said, thank you very much for everyone who's been watching us this past season across the 46 games as well. Yes, Michael's been a good guest host when I've been away and doing things, and tremendous. You guys had the biggest viewing on my channel for quite a long time, actually, which was amazing. So I got to give you props.
But it's okay. We do that enough ourselves.
You got to give you props for that one anyway. But no, it's been a good season. As I said, Leeds go up as champions. Burnley finished second. It's now and the commiserations to Cardiff, Plymouth, and Luton, and especially how the place goes, Brigade, we'll see. But thank you very much for watching. I see you guys. Maybe for me, never. But this show will be back on some point next season, depending on who's going to be here as well. But
welcome back, Ant.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much all for watching. Have a good evening, good night. Have a good weekend. Take care.